Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk. I am David Farkas. I'm joined by Josh Lehrer.
Hey, everybody.
And we've got Jose Rivera producing the show for us.
Hello, hello.
And what are we talking about today, Josh?
Sure. So in the past, we've done this series a few times, or this theme, which is, we call it Where Are We Now? Which is basically a look back at a certain system or category of products to see how far we've come in a certain amount of time. And David, what is the Where Are We Now of tonight?
So Where Are We Now is the Leica M System that we all know and love, but maybe could know a little better.
Correct. The last time we did, I wrote this down, Where Are We Now, was October of 2021.
A lot has happened since then.
In the last 2 years, preparing for this episode, we obviously sat down and had to figure out what happened in the last 2 years.
A lot of things.
It's kind of amazing, actually, how much we've seen both in terms of products, software, firmware, and then just news in general. So
For sure.
the goal for tonight is to kind of recap a lot of that and also focus on the M11P, which we've not talked about in a show since it was launched.
Right.
So this show is going to be both a sort of retrospective and also we're going to get our hands on the M11P.
And there was also just some firmware updates this past week that were, pretty big news in terms of the M11 family as well. So we'll go over some of that.
Yeah. I think the way we should do this is we'll start kind of just where we left off. What's happened since October of 2021. We'll kind of go through some of the major things. Now, we've done shows on a lot of these products already, so we're not going to do like a super deep dive.
Yep.
We can refer you to those episodes, when we get to that
Also,
topic.
just as a kind of point of housekeeping, if you go in the video description, I have put links to all the relevant articles on Red Dot Forum for every single announcement that we'll go over in terms of products, as well as current firmware, and also my in-depth reviews of the M11 and the M11 Monochrom. So if you want to go check those out after the video, please do so, or,
But not now, though.
Not now, or open in a new tab and,
Yes, that's right.
multitask a little bit.
Right.
But we will we'll get there. And also, big news.
Yes.
You guys have been asking for a while now.
You can't tell me. We have to
okay.
wait. David,
I have an announcement.
David's going to give something to everyone that you've all been asking for, but you have to stay at least the first hour.
Yeah. I'll tell you at the halfway.
Figure out
I'll
that
tell you
you
at the
can't
halfway point.
spoil it now.
Oh, okay. And Josh has some cool things to show off too.
Oh,
so.
well, I always have cool things to show off. So maybe we won't make you make the full hour. Maybe like 40 minutes in.
Something like that.
So TJ is in Antarctica right now. We're watching this show for now. Maybe a first.
That could be a first.
Don't forget your coat. It's cold out there. Anyway, so David, obviously the first thing that we'll talk about, I have the list here, it's just so we have some reference, is probably what I would say is the most significant product announcement in the last 2 years, which would be
The most significant?
yes, the first one on this list.
I mean, for me,
we're going in chronological order.
okay, chronological order.
Yeah.
The M11, which launched the M11 family.
Yes.
And that was a sizable update from the M10 generation. And, famously, I still remember these conversations when the M10 was the current product and the M10R was on the horizon. And like a, engineer saying, we don't actually know what to do to make this a better product. And yet somehow, some way, they were able to have all these small changes that added up to a pretty massive upgrade in generation to generation. We saw both an increase in the number of megapixels, but also variable resolution RAW files and JPEGs, and two different formats at the same time. New EVF, built-in memory, which is now making its way to other cameras.
Electronic
shutter with live view metering and highlight weighted metering, all things I love.
No base plate.
Well, I mean, depending on who you are, some people like that and some people don't.
I don't miss it. I like having it, but I don't miss it.
I don't mind it because it's more similar to where the Q and the SL system are. And also, like the SL system, it has USB charging, which is a huge upgrade as well. Upgraded Wi-Fi and Bluetooth LE connectivity, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, the list actually goes on.
Yeah, it was
quite significantly.
a huge, every 5 years or so, a new digital M comes out. And in our world, that's always the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Whatever, all these years of product launches, there's nothing that's bigger or more significant than the launch of a new M.
Sure.
And each time it gets bigger because the features are crazier
Yeah.
and the customer base is wider. There's more people out there who are looking at it. And, for us having been around for a while, I think the M11 launch is probably the most exciting from a technological standpoint.
I mean, the M10 was pretty significant.
Yeah.
In terms of finding that ultimate form factor and the revamped optical viewfinder, and there was a lot of really nice things with the M10.
Yeah, fair.
And really, if you look at an M10 and an M11 next to each other, unless you at first glance and maybe even second glance, they look the same. And Leica has that tradition of having that iconic design, where they don't depart too far from it, and yet they also manage to hide some additional function buttons to make it more usable that you don't visually see on the outside. Because, for instance, like the clickable scroll wheel.
Yeah.
It's a nice little change that visually you can't tell that anything's changed, but in use, it makes a big difference.
What I find fascinating is somebody maybe put this in the chat or brought this point up is, are the M cameras getting too complicated? And I think it's quite the opposite. If you actually lined up an M9 all the way to an M11 and you looked at the button layout, the menu configuration, and all the things that have changed, the cameras, in my opinion, have gotten simpler.
They have, yeah.
There's more features, but the design has gotten much more efficient, much easier to use, much more customizable, but then you could lock in those customizations with things like user profiles. So for me, what are you looking for?
The M11.
All these are M11s.
No, I mean, just an M11.
No, that
but
one.
here, could you just show this while we're talking about it? Because we have a lovely little slide.
Yeah,
so
our screens are going to get fingerprints constantly. It's like,
I apologize.
no, I cleaned them all.
Here. But you can show. You can show. So Jose can show that.
Yeah, so anyway, this is obviously, well, if we come from the M9 generation, which is here. Oh, wait, I can fit them. There we go. So this is an M9 monochrome, but you can see how much cleaner the design is now, even though this camera is 10 years, more than 10 years, 12 years newer than this one. So we've seen significant improvements in design and sort of the efficiency of the operation. So even though we've gotten way more new features like live view and electronic shutter and all kinds of options, I think the cameras are easier to use now and more logical to use. I mean, certainly every time I pick up an M9, I have to remember that half the menu lives in menu and the other half of the menu lives in the set button. So like, just the fact that we don't have to deal with that anymore is really nice.
You're seeing a light.
I know, sorry. Well, I'm trying to have two cameras at once, so anyway. And now we've had the M11 for almost 2 years. We wanted to do this on the 2-year anniversary, but we just didn't line up. So we're close, though. We're very close.
We are close.
Yeah.
We are close.
So we'll get more into M11 stuff because we actually have 2 shows on the M11 as well.
Yeah. Just kind of highlight resources there for you guys. I want to. Okay. Just pop over here real quick.
Screen, yeah.
Here I am. Yeah. So on red.forum.com, the website, not the YouTube, you can see this is the M11 review that I did that was pretty in depth. This one took a while because I really wanted to show the, both the evolution, talk about all the technology, but also just show off a lot of, also there's all the tech, so you can read about all the tech, but also show off the capabilities of the camera in a variety of circumstances, in different lighting scenarios, with a bunch of lenses, and show off what it could do. And really, just I'm still managed to be impressed. So here we are, years later, and it's only gotten better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all right,
yes, check that out when you
check
get
that
a
out.
chance.
And
So,
like I said, there's a link to that in the description.
so we had the M11. Sprinkled in amongst all the big products announcements, we've had some cool limited editions. So the next thing we saw after that was a lens I don't have here, unfortunately, which is the matte black paint edition of the 28 Summicron. That was a limited release in April of 2022. Kind of came and went, but that lens was cool because it very much like the 28 Summicron Safari edition, they modified the screw-on hood to be a retractable shade, which ironically we now see in the production version of the version 3
There you go.
28 Summicron.
I've got a picture for you.
Okay, you want to go over there? There we go. Okay, so this is, well, you should show them just the new, there it is on the camera. That's 28 Summicron matte black. It had like a faint green paint fill for the numbers and letters on the lens, which looked awesome. And I think they made about 500 of these?
500, yeah.
Yeah. So these are cool. They don't pop up that often, but they're really nice. It's one of the rarest Leica finishes is the matte black. We saw it on the Summicron.
450 pieces.
450. We saw it on the Summicron. We saw it on the QP in a fashion, and we saw it on the 246 monochrome stealth. And that's basically it. Versus even black paint, which is more common. So this is definitely one of the rarest Leica finishes. So after that, we saw a major firmware update for cameras that are not on the table, which is the M10. When the M11 came out, Leica introduced the VisuFlex 2, which was a more sophisticated, better built electronic viewfinder for the M11. And they had promised they would make it retroactively compatible with the M10 generations.
And they did.
And they did. So if you don't have the latest firmware on your M10, M10P, M10R, M10 Monochrome, M10D, make sure you do.
Definitely upgrade.
Because that functionality was huge and allowed you to use the VisuFlex 2 on those older models.
It is worth noting, though, that if you were going from the 020 to the EVF2, you are going to lose GPS functionality.
Correct.
But you do gain an OLED viewfinder that's nicer. And it's metal and it's lower profile.
Correct. And you know, it's not a perfect switch over, right? Because you do give up, and it's also priced higher, but from the build quality standpoint and the better quality of the EVF, I happen to like it. And I use this on the M10P quite a lot, so I think it works really well.
I think it's also a more reliable eye sensor than the
it's just
previous
nice.
one. Yeah. And it's got that nice magnet.
That's right.
Very satisfying.
That's the best part.
It's very satisfying. It's like,
and then the next thing we saw, and then I'll have you, David, talk about number 5. I'll talk about number 4, was another limited edition, which was the MA Titan set. So that was a Leica MA film camera and a 50 Summicron Apo, 50 Apple Summicron, made out of solid titanium, which was sick.
There you go.
They made 250. There we go. This thing was incredible. They came and went, obviously, because anytime Leica does titanium, that tends to be really, really special and very, very
look at that.
Desirable, gorgeous.
Amazing.
And real titanium, not titanium paint. I think this was actually milled from titanium, which they do in the Portugal factory. They have like a special titanium production capability.
Super nice.
So that was June. So this, again, another cool special edition. But then we saw something cool that's not a special edition. That was a regular product, which was, David, you want to talk about that? Number 5?
Number 5. Oh, yeah. The version 2 35 Summilux FLE. So this was and we have it here.
We have several of them. Here's one on this camera.
There's one on here.
There you go.
I don't have to show you a picture of it. I can show you the real thing.
Yeah.
There we go. We got it there. All right. Maybe it's in focus. There we go.
There you go.
So this is the 35 1.4 FLE version 2. And it had 2 noticeable improvements. One, sort of obvious here, which is it's got the built-in slide-out lens shade that we saw started with, I believe it was the 50 Apo was the first lens that we saw that with. And like the 35 Apo Summicron M, it also has a close focus range. So that is really the biggest change in terms of performance, because we go from the standard minimum focus distance of 0.7 meters all the way down to 0.4 meters, which makes a huge difference in terms of getting subject separation, getting close-ups, and the lens just becomes that much more useful, especially on a digital M body where you can take advantage of that.
Yeah, you should show it in silver too, David. I think it looks really, really nice in the silver finish.
Sure.
This is it on a silver M11, which I think looks super nice. Because now,
super.
Like all of the modern silver lenses, this is now silver anodized, meaning it's an aluminum barrel with the same weight as the black version. So previously, silver lenses always weighed more because they were brass. Now you get the silver color without the weight penalty.
I mean, that looks just like a product shot.
That's really, really, really nice. I love that in silver. Yeah. Sweet. Actually, can we show, just I'm geeking out for a second, how the silver looks on a black camera?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. I'll trade you.
Thanks.
I like the panda look. I think I went on a whole rant about that like a year ago on one of our shows. There we go. That is nice. You put a silver thumb support on there and a silver soft release. That's sick. That would look really, really good.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that looks really good. Okay, I'm nerding out. But anyway.
Sorry.
So that's the FL, and we have a 35 Summilux M episode where we cover the entire catalog of 35 Summilux M lenses from start to finish, and this lens is included in that. So if you want more in-depth insight into what makes this lens so great, you can watch that show.
Check it out.
What else? Number 6, I'll cover that one. So then, in October of 2022, we had the Celebration of Photography in Germany, and we got 2 major releases in the M family. The first is a product that somebody, after this came out, somebody sent me a clip of me saying on this show, well before that Leica is not making M6s anymore, so you better get a used one while you can find one.
Oh.
And then I had to eat my words, of course, because out of nowhere,
Okay.
they introduced...
That did not age well,
No, it did not
right?
age well. They introduced the M6
Yeah.
again. So this is the M6, what I call the 2022 reissue or 2022 edition, which is kind of the best of both worlds of the M6 and the MP, because it's the internals of an MP, so the metering of an MP and all that, but the externals of an M6. So you kind of get the classic M6 styling with the Wetzlar Germany text and the angled frame advance lever and the angled rewind, except, it's a modern camera. So it's not going to be like buying an older M6 that you're going to want to have service first. You get this brand new in the box, comes with warranty and all that. So we haven't seen a lot of these since it came out. We still have a waiting list. I know, I'm sorry, but they are really, really cool because, again, who would have thought, not me, obviously, that you'd be able to buy a brand new M6
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Which also means Leica is now manufacturing 3 different film cameras.
That's right.
That you can buy new,
That's right.
which is bananas because who else is doing that right now? Well, I say can buy new, but you can get on the list for...
Yeah.
Well, then we have some things in stock, but yeah, I get it. It's So yes, we also covered this before, so I'm not going to dive too deep, but this is a launch we saw, and I'll cover the other one, then we'll bounce back to you.
Sure.
Which is at
We
the
should
same
put
time
that
as
lens on that
at the same
camera.
time as the M6, we saw where'd it go? Here it is. Hold on. Another legend reborn.
There it is.
Which was the 35 Summilux steel rim. So this is an homage to the first version of the 35 Summilux that was made. And it has the iconic sort of steel rim, stainless steel rim on the outside. And this is one of Leica's classic series lenses, similar to the 28 Summicron, the 90 Thambar, and the 51.2 Noctilux. So it's essentially the same optical formula as the original steel rim, housed in a modern barrel that looks vintage but handles like a modern lens. And of course, it's a lot cheaper than buying an original steel rim.
And also modern glass coatings.
Correct. Yeah. So it's not a one-for-one exact copy of the original steel rim. It's still going to look and feel different, but it's the closest you can get to buying a vintage lens brand new in 2023, which is really cool. They come with 2 hoods too, which is nice. This is a screw-on hood like that. And they also came with a hood styled after the original Olux hood from the old steel rim days as well. So this hood is mostly for cosmetic purposes. It's not actually terribly practical. It certainly looks cool.
It does look cool.
So we saw those 2 major releases within the M system in October of 2022.
Well, and they were launched simultaneously.
Yes.
Kirsten and I were actually at that event
Nice, yeah.
in Germany of 2022, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
And yeah, I was like, oh, that's surprising. And I was lucky enough, they gave me an M6 and a 35 steel rim to...
Yeah, you went and shot with it.
Yeah,
right?
I shot with
Factory,
it down in the...
I dropped
Oh,
it.
okay.
It's just the hood.
No, wait, that's my job.
It's hard to do without looking at it.
It is. Yeah, I got to shoot around with the M6 and the steel rim in the old town in Wetzlar. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So next, David, why don't you talk about number 8? That's a big one.
Number 8 is another big one. Is it on here?
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Number 8 is another big one. Just in line on the heels of the 35 Summilux FLE version 2, this is the 50 Summilux 1.4 aspheric version 2.
There it is. Look at that.
And this one has a very similar styling what we just saw with the 35. So we've got the same slide out lens shade instead of the old push-pull with the previous 50 Lux, which is what I have right here. So this was the earlier 50 Lux that was introduced in 2004. And that one was a pull out and twist, if you see that. So if you pull it out and you don't actually lock it in, it'll just get pushed back in. And you have to give it a little twist. So that was the standard bearer, 50 Lux, for, what, a long time? Almost 20 years.
Yeah, very long time.
Very, very long time. So 19 years for this. And then now we've got the version 2, which, again, we've got that more refined, less prone to be pushed back in, rotating, telescoping lens shade, and more importantly, we have the same optical design, but again, going from the 0.7 meter minimum distance all the way down to 0.45. Oh, I'm a little blown out there. There we go. 0.45
Yeah.
minimum distance on the 50. So already I felt that the initial 50 Summilux, the first one, was, and it still is, a fantastic, you can come back here, fantastic portrait lens. because it's just, I like to say this is sort of like, a more compact, more practical, Noctilux-y kind of feel. It's not exactly a 50 Noctilux, but it's only a stop slower. It's a lot smaller, a lot more practical. And now with the version 2, you can get in really close. This is a phenomenal portrait lens opportunity in the new 50 Lux. I think that's a great move. And they didn't fix what wasn't broken. They just added additional functionality and brought it up to speed in terms of the mechanics. So now we've got the 50 Apo, the 50 Lux, the 35 Apo, the 35 Lux, all in these modern lens barrel designs.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And the same day they announced the 50 Lux version 2, David, they announced the camera that it's currently sitting on as well, which is, tell us.
This is an M11 monochrome.
That was a big day. That was a big day in our world.
It was a huge day, huge day. And you can pop up. I've got a little slide for that, Jose.
Ooh, a slide. We love slides.
Boom. Hey, there it is. Look at that. This is the M11 Monochrome, launched in May 2023, based on the underlying technology of the M11. So it's got that same 60 megapixel backside illuminated sensor, but in a black and white version. So no Bayer filter or color filter array. And we upgraded from the 64 gigabytes in the M11 to 256 gigabytes of internal memory inside, which is really practical because if you use, for instance, 256 gig memory cards, you can actually do mirrored shooting and back it up to the internal memory. And here we're seeing there's a one-stop difference in base ISO from 64 to 125, but maximum ISO goes to 200,000. I wouldn't say go to 200,000, but the camera performs extremely well up to 50,000 ISO.
Yeah.
Which is, again, bananas.
Yeah.
But you can come back to.
Well, we saw two other features on the M11 Monochrome. One new to the series entirely, and one we hadn't seen in quite a while. The feature we hadn't seen in quite a while is not something you can actually see, but that is the sapphire glass.
Oh,
which
right.
we have not seen since the 246 Monochrome in 2015.
Yep.
So it took them 8 years to bring back the sapphire glass, which I thought was great. And the other thing that you see, which is hard to see, you have your little lens cloth?
I have a lens cloth, yeah.
Fingerprints everywhere.
Okay.
I got it. Which is the top and bottom section of the rangefinder window.
It's that dark chrome,
He's
right?
like,
Yeah.
oh, how did an ant get in here? Like, so I don't know. I literally had an ant on me. We're in the middle of nowhere. These like little strips here. Let me grab an M11 and hopefully you can compare the two. There's one. Hold on.
Here.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. It's gonna be a little tricky.
Maybe put them.
You can see how it's so hard to show.
It's more black.
It's basically darker. It's
Barely,
less reflective.
barely.
It's very hard to show on this camera with the lens on it. But anyway, so we saw the sapphire glass screen, and then we saw the dark chrome, dark chrome viewfinder. I don't even know how to describe it. Framing, whatever. Anyway, David has a fantastic M11 Monochrome review on Red Dot Forum, which is right there.
That one here. So we'll take a look at that.
Yeah. Thank you.
There we go. So this was my M11 Monochrome review. I did the M11 review in New York City, and I felt it was only appropriate to go back to New York to see the difference in usability of the same platform, but with a basically two-stop advantage in low light performance, and really go into both a little bit into the technology of what makes a monochrome different than a color camera, which I've covered many, many times. In fact, we have a monochrome episode dedicated to that. But also, gonna just scroll all the way down, get to some of the good stuff here. I'm looking for, where is that? Maybe 16,000. Oh, I guess it was further. Sorry. We're getting there. I have a lot of photos. Here we go. So something like this, where that's 40,000 ISO. And shooting in these kind of conditions, being able to get a fast shutter speed and stop down to get depth of field and still get clean images in basically no light, that's exclusive monochrome territory. So as good as the M10 monochrome was, as exceptional as the M10 monochrome was, The M11 monochrome just notches that ever so much higher and changes the entire user experience because you have the freedom to basically shoot any lens you want, go anywhere you want, and get fast enough shutter speeds to freeze action and stop down to get depth of field in scenarios where previously you just couldn't do that. So I highly recommend checking out the review. Again, links in the description. If you want to see all the photos, I've got tech specs, ISO, shutter speed, aperture, lenses for all of it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, come back to us. So after that, we saw another significant M body, which I'll talk about.
Go for it.
We saw, where
These
is
two.
it?
You got two.
Two. Here we go. I think you can go to the overhead for this, right, Jose? Or like that?
There you go. Yeah.
Clean it up. Got a fingerprint on it. Okay. The M11P. So Leica started using the P designation with the original MP, with the P standing for professional, since the original MP was a camera that was only sold to professional photographers. And over the last 60 years, they've used the P designation to denote a sort of mid-life cycle refresh upgrade. So it's not a full new model, but it's not the same as what it's based on. It has different improvements. So for example, after the MP, we saw the M4P, which introduced 75mm frame lines. We saw a little bit of a gap, and then we got into the digital era where really this took hold fully. We started what I would say with the M8.2, which was technically a P model, even though it wasn't called that. We had the M9P, we had the MP Type 240, the M10P, and now, of course, the M11P. So we saw a couple of major improvements on all of the P models in the digital era, and that hasn't changed here with the M11P. What's a little bit different about this launch is in the past, the P version always came before the monochrome version. It was always the regular one, the P version, and the monochrome version, at least the last three. This time, fourth go around, we saw the monochrome version first. So instead of the P model improvements finding their way into the monochrome, we found the monochrome improvements getting into the P version. In this case, we have sapphire glass, just like the M11 monochrome. We have the darker viewfinder areas, which again, very hard to show on camera. And we have the 256 gigabytes of internal memory, up from 64 gigs in the standard M11. We also have the classic P top plate engravings, which all of the P models always incorporate. So it's in black on the silver chrome body and in white on the black paint body. I will mention, just like the M11, the black camera is aluminum and the silver chrome camera is brass. So this does weigh a little bit more. And of course, the last thing cosmetically is no red dot, which again is another hallmark of the digital era P models. If we compare it to a black M11, which I have here, just to give you guys a reference, here we go. So we have, you can see the only difference on the front is going to be that like a dot on the M11, not on the M11P. Here is if you can sort of see the difference in the,
Not really.
It's impossible to show. And then of course, the top plane engraving, which we always get on the P models. If I compare it just for reference to an M11 monochrome, you can see the major cosmetic differences are the fact that the monochrome has the completely sort of blacked out engraving on this half of the top plate. So there's no script, and then there's no writing, no infill in the hot shoe writing. So that's all blacked out.
Also the shutter button.
And and the shutter, I was covering that, and the shutter button as well. So if you own an M11P and an M11 monochrome, they look very similar, but they should be easy to tell apart, especially looking at it from the top. I mean, obviously the engraving is the giveaway. From the front, that's another story. They look pretty much exactly the same.
Wow.
From the front.
Yeah.
I think that's the first time I've seen them
The
both.
leatherette is different.
That's true. The leather is slightly different. You can see it's a little more textury, to use an appropriate word, on the M11P, but it's very, very close. So that's sort of just give you a visual reference of these two together. But there is one feature the M11P got, which we've never seen before. In fact, which no camera had ever seen before.
Correct.
I'm going to kick it over to you, David, and maybe Jose also, because he's got some insight into this.
Oh, you do?
If you want to talk about it, which is
the content authentication under the, well,
right.
Leica's using many different things. So it's Leica content authentication under the content authentication initiative. That's a mouthful.
It's a lot of words, yeah.
I don't know. There's some encryption in there. There's things. So basically, the M11P is the first camera from anyone, Leica or otherwise, up to this point, that has hardware encryption chip. So the camera is basically embedding content creation metadata, which you put into the camera, which would be the creator or the, I think the owner are two different areas of input.
Well, you can show them in the menu.
We can show that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I can show that. Thank you.
You're welcome. We don't talk about it. We can show it.
I'm trying to do this off memory.
No
All
need.
right. Here we go. Let's see.
Nope,
There we go.
A little lower. There you go.
So it's actually the Leica content credentials here. And if you go in there, we can sign content saying on and copyright and produced by. So you can see here, you could just type out and I can say red dot, whoop, I can try to say red dot forum. There we go. Check. And I can say copyright, David. Boom. So that's going to embed that information, and you can see it's red.forum is the produced by, the copyright is David, and I'm signing all my content, and it is authorized through the Content Authenticity Initiative and Leica. So what that's going to do is embed metadata inside each and every file that you take, and it is, I guess the goal is to provide authentication credentials and provenance to the photos, that they haven't been tampered with, they haven't been misused or taken from their rightful owner.
Yeah. Well, let me just cut. Jose, if you
Jose,
want,
if you have some insight,
you want,
yeah,
'cause I know
please let it.
Jose
let it
got a
out.
little bit of training on this workflow recently. Maybe you can chime in a little bit as well.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they give a good summary of it, but basically, yeah, it's being led by Adobe. More than 300 companies are kind of joining this this program, and basically, there's also a website, so you upload it, and it's gonna give you all the information. Even if you wanna go back and make changes to the photo, it still kind of like resubmits it. So again, for journalists or anybody, professional photographers or just anybody really that wants to really protect their work, yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we started playing around with it. We really had to, do some more with it to really test it out. But yeah, it's like, if you go in Photoshop, you'll see how the whole process works. And yeah, I mean, it's
I
pretty
think
cool, yeah.
this is obviously being a new technology. It's going to take time, not only for it to be fully implemented, but to be fully appreciated.
Yeah.
Anytime you have this sort of cutting edge concept, the first person to do it or first company to do it's always going to be a little bit of a question mark. Like, how can we implement this in our workflow? Who is this going to benefit? Who is this superfluous for? And I think what Leica and all these other companies are doing is recognizing that now is just the beginning of a time where it's going to be more difficult than ever to determine the origin of a digital image.
Or
With AI as well.
Or is it even real? Or was it even captured?
Correct.
Was it not produced?
Yeah,
Correct.
Right.
with AI, you have to. This is something that's important nowadays with photography, and
Yeah, so this is not, something that is for everybody right now, but I can imagine a future where artificially generated images that are not based in reality but look real are more rampant, and it's more important than ever from a journalistic standpoint, from a documentary standpoint, from a historical preservation standpoint, to have a trackable record of all the changes made to that file and also who created that image, what person or entity created it.
And
So-
that it wasn't tampered with.
Correct, because all the changes you make to the file are stored,
recorded.
and you can't undo that.
Yeah, so that's stored, I believe it's like a blockchain where it actually references all that as a history. So every time a file is modified or the metadata is modified or the image is modified in any way, so for instance, because Adobe is behind this initiative, if you do toning adjustment or white balance or whatever, or crop it, all that will be embedded in that blockchain data so that someone who's verifying the authenticity of a photojournalistic image and saying, is this real or was that person photoshopped in there?
Yeah.
You can say, no, that's the original capture. All that was done to it was just, exposure and white balance and cropped in a little bit. Nothing was monkeyed with it.
The functionality for the M11P is, as David mentioned, is hardware. Meaning, I think someone had asked if it could be added with firmware later. It cannot be.
Right.
I was in Germany last month, and they were talking about this concept. And they actually, every single chip gets a certification from a German governmental organization that certifies and gives them the individual sort of tagging ability.
Right.
So this is like super legit. And again, it's brand new tech. The M11P is the first camera to introduce it. So we still have a lot of questions and a lot of functionality to understand, which is fine with me because sometimes you don't know you need something until you really need it. And you're like, oh, actually it's very useful.
And I'm
I
sure
think
the
it's very-
program will keep
yeah.
developing as well as we go on, and
Right.
you know, so
It'll
Yeah,
become
this-
more widespread.
This
So-
is just the beginning, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I can imagine that, we look at images in a browser or an Instagram or wherever, and and maybe there's a little highlight that says this content's been authenticated through the, CAI.
Yeah.
And we don't know how that will roll out, but there is a lot of companies, Jose, like you said, there's over 300 companies now that are part of this initiative. And Adobe is no small player in the world of imaging. So
Yeah.
having that and then Leica buying into this and saying, sure, we'll throw our hat in the ring. We'll make that investment in the hardware and the technology in our cameras to do it and hope that others follow suit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, good for Leica.
Very cool. And more to come on that as that functionality expands.
Yeah.
So that pretty much covers M11P. The next,
I'll bring that up.
what? No, oh, because we don't have it. You mean.
Right, we don't have it.
The next product that was announced we don't have yet, which is the new 28 Summicron. Once we get our demo copy, we'll obviously do a show about it and 28 in general. We can show you the post on Red Dot forum, of course, so you can see it. Well, it's going to be virtual either way, but
So it looks
we
like
have changes that are going to seem familiar, which is the close focus capability and the integrated slide out lens shade. So more to come on this as we.
Oh, there's a close
Yeah,
focus.
once we get one, and I can do all my testing. And
Now, Josh, is this a version 2?
this is the version 3. This is actually the first version 3 that we've seen in the modern era. No other modern lens has been upgraded twice.
Yeah.
We've seen
pretty neat.
FLE2, 50 Lux 2, 20 nanometer 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but we've never seen a third iteration
Yes.
in this modern era until now.
Yeah. So just so you know, when you're looking at this, that's actually not a typo. That really is the third version.
Yes.
So
Yeah, we had the 28 Summicron version 1, 11604, with the big old plastic hood. Version 2, 11672, which was the metal screw-on hood. And then now version 3, which is the current sort of Leica design ethos. And it's logical to assume we'll continue to see refreshes like this in the future. I think Leica is realizing that with everybody using live view cameras, giving them that close focus is very usable, as opposed to in the pre-live view days when you had to have the goggles with the 90 macro, and it was a whole show. That was, we have a whole episode on macro.
we do. Yeah, I was
you
gonna
can
say,
see it.
yeah,
You can see it. But yeah, that was a whole. This is much easier now. You just keep turning the focus ring. And the last news that we saw in terms of product or launches or news
got that up as well.
is
This one's here.
this one. So let me get into this.
Cover it.
2009 seems so long ago. We saw the Leica M9. It was Leica's first full frame M, and it used a CCD sensor at the time made by Kodak. We didn't know this at the time, but there was actually a design flaw with the cover glass over the sensor where it would corrode, it would rust basically. And it took a number of years to get to the point where Leica could understand what was happening and address it. So for a while, they were replacing all the sensors with a redesigned sensor that was being made by TrueSense, right? I think was who bought Kodak at the time. And at a certain point, though, after many, many years, the sensors were no longer being manufactured. No company can make, especially when they're not making it in-house, can make some legacy part forever, especially one that's that expensive and one that they weren't selling, right? These were all either freebie or heavily subsidized replacements. So eventually, the sensors ran out. They weren't being manufactured. So Leica had to do something because they didn't want to just say to all the M9 people that didn't have new sensors, too bad. They wanted to do something. So what they've done over the last few years is offered a trade-up program. The way it works is if you have an M9, M9P, ME, or M Monochrom that has corrosion on the CCD sensor, you can trade up for a brand new Leica camera at a discounted price. This would be instead of trying to sell the camera for almost nothing because it is not terribly usable depending on how bad the corrosion is. So the newest version of this trade-up program has just been launched. Now, this is USA. I do not know how this works for the rest of the world. So, consult your local Leica store if you're outside the US. But here in the US, you have these options. And the new additions are the M11P, M11 Monochrom, and the Q3. Now, if you look at these numbers and you do the math, by far the best deal is to upgrade to an M11P or an M11 Monochrom. you get like a $2,800 trade-in value, which is $1,000 more than the other option. So I'm just saying, if you want to stick with your M, and it makes sense because Leica wants people to stick in the M system, so they're giving you the best deal to go M to M. But anyway, if you have a camera that has corrosion, and then a CCD-M camera, you can send it to us at Leica Store Miami. We'll verify that it has the corrosion, and then we send it in. And then once your new camera comes in, we send it to you. So this is a great way to get a really good deal on a brand new Leica and get rid of a camera that can't be repaired anymore, and basically you just would be sitting around collecting dust. So if you have questions about this program, we have a story on Red Dot Forum, a post about it, where we talk about how the program works. We even explain how to test, how to generate.
Yep, here's your testing, and also, there you go.
Yeah.
What it would look like. So this would be an image, a sensor image with corrosion spots on it.
Correct. So we show you how to test, and of course you could, we tell you to send the file to us, and we'll double check. So if you've got an original M camera with a CCD sensor that has corrosion, reach out to us, send us a file, we'll take a look at it, and then you can send the camera in. We'll process the upgrade for you and get you into a new camera. So certainly an exciting bit of news
For sure.
For a small group of people, but yet people still are out there with these cameras. So
Absolutely.
Let's pause on news and announcements and stuff for a moment.
Okay.
And geek out about some other totally random stuff.
Totally
Because
random
we are going to talk about firmware updates
Okay.
afterwards. But
Yes.
before I go, I think you need to talk about this exciting and free new thing that you have crafted for the viewers at home.
Okay. So for no short amount of time, there has been some requests for me to update. A few years back, I published, let me preface this. A few years back, I published a how to use camera or develop presets in Lightroom to simplify your workflow and also just make the images look more like, I don't know, my images, I guess, because I basically put my presets out on the internet so you could download them for a wide variety of cameras in my particular style. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people in our own company don't like my style, which is fine. That photography is a very personal thing, but at least it gives you an example and a starting point, and you can modify them. But for a while now, there's been some requests for me to update and provide new presets for the new cameras. So I endeavored to do that and have updated the article with M11/M11P, as well as M11 Monochrome and the Q3.
Nice.
But wait, there's more.
Okay, tell us.
So previously, I would have to have multiple versions of a preset for low ISO or high ISO, and then kind of adjust and play. And even through a lot of the high ISO testing articles that I've done over the years, the black and white showdowns, I explained some of that methodology of how to tone back certain things in terms of less shadow recovery and pulling the blacks down, and a little less clarity and less texture for, and more noise reduction for high ISO images, but you don't want to apply noise reduction to low ISO images because you're robbing yourself of detail. So in the past, you'd have to have multiple presets for the different ISO values. Now, as of sometime last year, Adobe has created these adaptive presets for ISO. So what you do basically is you create a preset for your low ISO files. You create other settings for your high ISO files. You highlight both of them, and when you create a preset with two images highlighted with two different sets of values, it allows you to create a variable or adaptive preset rather, and it will ramp values in between those on a continuous basis through the power of Adobe Magic and artificial intelligence. So basically, a low ISO image will be 0 luminance noise reduction, and let's say on the M11 monochrome, a 50,000 ISO image will have 50 luminance noise reduction, and then something in between at say 20,000 ISO will be somewhere around 25 luminance noise reduction. So you're able to kind of automatically adjust for all your photos at once without having to go in and individually tweak them. I was pretty excited about this to really explore that. I've been putting it off a while, so...
So show us how to get the presets, bro.
How to get the presets. Here we go. So anyway, I wanted to kind of go over that.
Yes.
And I'm excited about it, which I think is great. And where did I put it? Right there.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay. Well, show them how to get to this.
Right. So let me just first up here. If you go in Red Dot Forum under technical articles, another thing is
We'll get to that later.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Here, Lightroom presets for Leica cameras, and the article still is extremely, even though that's not the current splash screen, that's a couple of years old.
It's all right. Scroll down to the good stuff, please.
All right, but if you go
You should
through,
have a button on the top that takes you right to the presets.
I know.
I'm going to have you add that next week.
If you go through, I explain the methodology.
Rambles
of what I'm doing and how it works. This is actually the new thing here. I did update that for adaptive presets, and you can see create ISO adaptive preset, which is really cool. And if we go down,
Scroll
I know
all the way down.
There we
Break
go.
your mouse button.
List of presets. There we go. So we've got the M11, M11P, and as you see, I say adaptive here. Maybe you can't see.
Put this link in the chat.
Really small. It's in the description of the video.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Good man.
and M11 monochrome adaptive and Leica Q3 adaptive. And just to answer the question before it happens, no, I haven't recreated my SL2 presets yet with adaptive
He
technology.
will. He's a busy man. Okay. Give him some time.
But I will, because it's going to only help in my own workflow. So please
So
do the benefit of that.
bookmark this page, because as David adds presets, he'll do it here. So everything will live in one place. And also, you have the instructions how to use presets on this article as well, right?
Right here.
Yeah, perfect.
Indeed.
So if you don't know how to use the presets, how to install them, this article is going to have all that information. It's in the description of this video.
Walks you through how do I import
Look
and
at
use
that.
the presets.
All questions are answered.
All questions
So
are
for
answered.
everyone who's been bugging us,
Me mostly.
mostly him, to have M11, M11 Monochrom presets, and Q3 presets,
Yep.
they now exist on Red Dot Forum.
There you go.
So now it's my turn to talk about cool stuff.
All right,
Which is
you-
way cooler than your
All
stuff. So a couple things. Firstly, you may be familiar with what is my most used and favorite camera bag now, which is the Oberwerth M11 VisaFlex bag. This is a bag.
Now, Josh, didn't you have some involvement in designing this bag?
I did. This bag was my idea, so thank you to Oberwerth for turning my crazy ramblings into a real bag. So essentially,
It is.
this bag is designed to accommodate an M11 or M body with an EVF attached to it. So it's got extra depth. Well, that's a mess inside, so that's okay. Anyway, this is not what I want to show you. This is the standard version of the bag that's been out for a year or so, and it has been the best-selling Oberwerth bag we've seen in quite some time. However, there is a slight variation of it that we kind of got a handful of just as an experiment from Oberwerth. So this is what it looks like, right? The black with red stitching. But we also got this one. This is like the stealth version. So the
that's
same VisaFlex bag, except all black stitching on the bag and on the strap as well. They made 5 of these. We've sold 2 of them already. So we only have 3 left. Same price as the red stitching. No,
This is limited, right?
yeah, this was like just an experiment from Oberwerth. They basically said, hey, we like this bag. Would you like to get a couple with black stitching? And I said, sure. So they sent us 5. That's all they made. I was going to keep one, but I already have that one. And I'd rather give someone else a
so
chance.
that's why that one's a mess.
Yes, because I
your
used
bag.
that. Yes, 'cause I
Okay.
used that one. That's my
Is this
personal
one
one.
is this one nice inside?
This one's brand new. Well, yeah, it's
You
got,
should open it up and show them.
I don't know if it's still got all the paper and stuff.
Yeah, I got the overhead there.
It's still got all
Yeah.
the paper and
No,
stuff.
it's fine.
Well, I can take it out.
Take it out.
Basically, this bag, if we can get, is designed to accommodate an M11 with the VisaFlex on it, because most M bags are not deep enough, so you have to take the VisaFlex off. And what they've given you with these bags, if I can find them, are little blocks, and the blocks are designed to go into the bag like this, and the VisaFlex sits on top of them, so it has like a place to rest. So it's a really clever design, and what's cool is, because it has this extra depth, this also fits an SL2 body or SL2S body as well. So if you've got an SL2 kit with maybe 1 apo lens or 1 zoom and a couple of M lenses, you can use this bag for that as well. So I've traveled with this bag extensively. I took it to Germany with me last month to Wetzlar. So this isn't news. The bag itself has been around for a bit, but the black version, the black on black stitching version is new. And again, there's only 3 of them. It's the same price as the red stitching one. I just thought it was cool. That's the first cool thing.
Nice.
Second cool thing is I do like to highlight interesting additions to the Leica Store Miami pre-owned department every now and then when I get something that's worthy. I don't just throw random stuff out there.
That one?
No. And we just got something cool, which is in this very exciting plastic bag, which means it's something old. Because I don't know, it means I don't have the box for it. This is a lens that we haven't talked about on the show in quite some time, and since we did our 35 M lens episode, I'm going to show you anyway. Here we go. So what I have here, this little guy, is the first version of the 35 Summicron. This is now known as the 8 element because it has 8 lens elements. And if we get a close-up on this beautiful little lens, here we go. This just came back from Wetzlar, where it has been since March, because that's how long it takes to get a vintage lens CLA these days, where it got a full overhaul. And this is a Canadian version. They made these in both Canada and in Germany. And you can see it's in pretty nice shape. But what's cool about this lens is despite the fact that it is basically 60 years old, the performance is strikingly good, even wide open. This lens was so far ahead of its time, but yet it still has a beautiful fall off, beautiful rendering, wide open, and you could stop it down for basically almost modern lens performance. It looks and handles, again, way ahead of its time. It does have an infinity lock here. It is silver chrome, so it's made from brass. This particular example does come with a hood, and that's about it. So you got service paperwork and the hood. But I bring this up because these lenses are getting harder and harder to see, and because of the time and expense that it takes to actually get a Wetzlar factory CLA service done, this is, to me, a worthwhile lens. Whether you have a film camera or even an M11, this is going to work fantastically well. So just another cool addition to the used department that I wanted to highlight. And the last thing I want to talk about is actually not expensive at all. I know I always ever show expensive things, but none of these things that I'm about to show
What do you got?
are expensive. This is a credit to Kirsten, who is among her gazillion skills,
Swag.
the queen of swag. She runs
on the swag.
She runs our in-house accessory, clothing, apparel brand, Red Dot Wear. And we have a couple of new additions to the Red Dot Wear catalog, which are perfect in time for the holidays. Now, I think this is the perfect Christmas gift. If somebody wants to get me an ALM for Christmas, I would not say no.
It's the perfect stocking stuffer.
Hint. But if you don't want to spend $4,000...
Well, Josh, that's why it has no box. It's a stocking stuffer.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, exactly. Hopefully a bubble wrap lined stocking. Anyway, we got 3 cool new gift ideas for the Red Dot Wear brand. The first one is a new variation of our Red Dot Wear Clean Canteen thermos.
I can show it off on my
This
side.
is the red color, classic Leica red.
Here we go. You want to get an overhead there?
Can we even fit it in the camera?
I can do it this way.
Okay.
Meh.
Looks great. That's mine.
that's you.
Hi.
There we
it
go.
is. So this has the some original Leica patent drawings on it. And
Well, they're laser engraved.
laser engraved. It looks sweet.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
And high quality.
Yeah, show them the top. We were playing with this earlier.
Oh yeah. So this
Got
one's
this like little
twist thing.
straw thing on
Yeah,
it.
you like twist it this way, and the straw pops out.
Look at that. So cool.
And it's hard to see on this angle actually. We're a little zoomed in here.
I know. It's okay. Anyway,
But here I could show it here.
so this is a cool option for a fun holiday gift, or just for yourself if you get thirsty sometimes.
And of course, because you have a ring here, you can hook a carabiner.
Perfect.
Love
Got a handle.
carabiners.
That's the first one. Next, we've got the Red Dot Wear notebook set. So we can get a close up of this.
Those are very shiny on your side.
Well, yeah, 2 of these are wrapped in. But this is new. But these are wrapped in
Put this
plastic.
under it.
Why?
Lift them up.
Oh, just to lift them
Yeah.
up a little bit. Let's see if it fits. I'm doing great.
Perfect
This is
use
not
for-
going to work.
Use your phone then.
I use my phone. I just got to prop them up so they don't.
Yeah, reflect.
Okay, so this is a set of 3 notebooks that are made in the US using this beautiful French paper, and you can see it's got the dot grid. It's really super, super nice. Hard to tell.
You cannot see that's grid.
No, you cannot. Anyway, so there's 3 different versions. There's one with this gold embossed Q, one with a gold embossed SL, and one, of course, with an M camera. So again, they come as a set. You have 3. Super, super high quality, like really, I mean, you can't feel them, but it's like, it's gorgeous. They're Rhodia notebooks, you can see that. Anyway, that's the notebooks. And the last cool thing that we have is this innocuous looking little bag, which contains, stickers.
Lots of stickers. Look at that.
Yay. So this is what do we call this? The All the M's vinyl sticker pack.
How cool is that?
Check this out. So we've got, I think it's a dozen stickers, right?
Are you going to actually do them all?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to lay them out. You can see 'em.
Slightly out of focus.
Um,
It's going to be fantastic.
I can put them on the
Put 'em on the notebooks,
Wait, hold on. We're not messing around here. Well, they're not going to see them all. But anyway, these are all of the M's. These really nice vinyl stickers. They're actually a really nice size. We're doing great here. You get the idea. They're stickers, okay? You
And there's lots of them.
There's a whole bunch of them. Digital cameras, film cameras, everything from the M3 and up, covering quite a long. This is similar designs that we had on all the M's poster limited edition that we did earlier this year, except now in a much easier to stick on things form. So if you like stickers, if you like notebooks, if you like any kind of cool swag stuff for the holidays or for yourself or just for fun, Jose will put a link in the chat if he hasn't already to get to those various exciting things. So,
Josh,
or
a
if you just
couple
want
of
to buy
questions.
lens. What?
A couple of questions on the bag.
Yeah.
Fire away.
Can it withstand exposure to rain?
Yes. Yeah, it's a treated leather, so it's fine. I mean, I wouldn't stand like in a hurricane, but regular rain is just fine. Yeah, it has the way they do it, I'll show you on mine, is there's like these little inner flaps that cover the side of the bag, so it's not just like exposed.
Get the close overhead there.
Yeah, can we do the overhead shot? There we go. So like when you close the bag, you close this first, and then, hold on, and you close that. So there's like an additional layer of material in between the bag. So I've had it in the rain just fine. I haven't had any issues. Again, I don't think it would withstand like a downpour, but I don't think I want to be outside in a downpour anyway. So
Josh wouldn't withstand a downpour.
no, I would not. Anyway, this bag is a mess on the inside. I'm sorry. Because I just, usually when I travel and I unpack the bag, I like take all the dividers out, take everything out, and just jam it back in until the next adventure when I complain about what a mess it is.
Or the next show.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What
Either
are
way.
the other questions, Jose?
And how heavy is the bag in comparison to let's say an Ona bag? It's
lighter.
Same size.
Lighter than that.
A lot lighter.
Yeah, this is pretty light. This is, I don't know the weight, but it doesn't really have much hardware on it except for the little release things.
I mean, I would say in general, this is the casual line they call it.
yeah, I can't keep track of all
Yeah.
that.
Anyway, this line of Oberwerth bags in general is a lot lighter weight than it looks. Ona bags tend to be a lot heavier than they look with the wax canvas. So let me see. Yeah,
Not heavy. It's not. I mean,
950 grams.
950 grams. There you go. What is that, 2 pounds?
just about.
Just about, yeah. So not heavy. You know, this bag has been with me all over the world. I've spent days walking around New York City with it. Again, this is my personal one. It's been, chucked in overhead bins and stuff, and it looks pretty good.
Looks good.
It's pretty nice. So this is my most used bag for camera gear because that little bit of extra width really allows you to store SLs and M's with VisaFlex on it without having to take it off. It just works perfectly for me. So
Yeah.
just something cool. I mean, the regular version is cool, but the black sort of stitching, being there's only 5 in the world,
It's unique.
is kind of neat. Yes. Other questions?
Nope.
No. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure there's questions. I'm looking at the chat.
Not to the Oberwerth.
Oh, not the Oberwerth bag.
Why don't we take some questions
Yeah, let's
before we
take
get
some
into the
questions.
firmware stuff?
Yeah.
Sure.
What do you got for us? Fire away.
All right. Is an M10P still available anywhere in the world new?
I mean, I don't know what's in everyone's inventory, but I haven't seen a new M10P in years, so
Wow, yeah.
my guess would be no.
Yeah, probably not. All right. Should they bring back video option on a regular size body, unlike the bloated M240?
So I can speak to that. Leica's been pretty clear that. let me back up. The customer response, the user response to video was extremely negative on the 240. So much so that between that and also making the body thinner on the M10, there was basically two reasons. Nobody wanted video, and Leica didn't want to figure out a way to engineer video without the camera overheating because it's 4 millimeters thinner, takes away a lot of the possibility for heat dissipation. And they didn't want to make a bad video camera. So they decided we don't need video because our customers screamed they didn't want it. So most people, by and large, didn't want to see video on the M10 generation. And also, the third factor is you have the SL system that is so easy to adapt M lenses to. So it could be argued, oh, well, I want to use an M camera for video because I want to take advantage of my M glass, vintage and new, and get those kind of looks. And Leica's answer would be, well, there's an M adapter. You can just put your M lenses on an SL2S and shoot amazing quality video with a purpose-built video camera using M lenses. And Jose, I'm going to throw it to you because I know that you shoot video on an SL2S with M lenses.
It's amazing. Mm-hmm. I love
There you
it.
go.
I mean,
So Jose, as a video user who uses M lenses, would you like to see video on a future M product? Or are you happy on the SL?
no, I don't think I would like it on an M just because you're trying to put too many things into one camera. And like you said, if they're not gonna make a really good video camera, why even bother? Like, just the mentality of the M is just not really for video. Like, I like the 240. I think it's fun, but I know it's not a professional
Right.
video camera. So
We forgot the most important news,
What's that?
the event.
Oh yeah.
Forgot to cover that. So the one other thing that we forgot to talk about. Thank you to the person who asked the question. Everyone watching the show is most likely familiar with KEH. It's an Atlanta-based company that has been around forever. They buy and sell
Everything.
piles and piles of used equipment. So one of the limitations of being Leica Store Miami is we buy and sell and trade Leica gear. But if you want to trade in your non-Leica gear with us, we have no avenue to sell it. So we've partnered with KEH to do an in-store event where if you come into the store with any brand of camera or lens, doesn't matter, you can trade it with KEH or sell it to them. So the way it works is you come in and you can either just sell it to KEH outright and they'll write you a check, or if you trade it to KEH, basically the same process on your end, but if you're going to trade it to get something from Leica Store Miami, KEH gives you an extra 10% bonus. So if you wanted to, say, convert your old, some Canon sitting around to a new Leica lens or a camera, you would get a 10% bonus trading it. So that's December 15th and December 16th. We have a slide.
There you go.
Yeah, there it is. December 15th and the 16th. It's in-store only in our Coral Gables showroom, and 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if you've got old cameras and lenses sitting around, anything you're looking to sort of dust off, or just something you want to trade out of, and you normally have not been able to trade it with Leica Store Miami, now is your chance to do that. So if you're in Florida and you want to come by, sell some stuff, trade some stuff, hang out, grab an espresso, I'll be there. David will probably be there at some point. So yeah, we'd love to have you come by. So thank you, whoever asked that question.
There you go.
Reminding me.
We totally
we
forgot.
almost forgot to talk about the KEH event.
But we should go back to questions.
Yes, please. Jose.
All right. Let's write this on the chat. Next question is, do you think classic M cameras will be phased out?
No.
Classic as in film cameras?
Maybe.
I didn't really know
Well, as Josh said earlier, Leica is now making 3 models of film camera.
Yeah. I don't think that.
And they
Film
just
M's
introduced a new one a year ago.
Yeah, I don't think film M's are going
Yeah.
anywhere for a long, long time.
Yeah. And film, frankly, is on the rise. You have, Kodak ramping up films that have been discontinued for decades, and they're manufacturing them again. If you're a film photographer, now is a great time to be a film photographer because you have so many options and you have all these new films, you have labs popping up everywhere. It's a fun time.
Next question.
All right, one more. Hey all, I have an M246 monochrome and an M11. Beginning to wonder if overkill to have both. Do you think converting the M11 file to black and white is virtually equivalent to the M246 monochrome?
I think so.
No, it's better.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's where I was going with that. The short version of that is the reason to have a 246 monochrome is because you like using color filters and you like not having to convert. If you're comfortable with the conversion process in Lightroom, Capture One, Photoshop, whatever, the M11 is going to give you better black and whites just because there's so much more resolution and that sensor is so far advanced from the 240 sensor that the 246 is based on. Yeah,
I would say, let's say the 246 maximum performance is around 10,000 ISO. I would say, for optimal purposes, maybe 12,500, but let's call it 10,000. 8,000 on the 246 looks fantastic. The M11 color version, converted to black and white, you're looking at optimized at around 16,000, 20,000. The M11 monochrome takes that even further to 40 or 50,000. So you're also, not only do you have that kind of equivalent performance, let's say a stop better than your 246, you're also notching up 60 megapixels versus 24 megapixels, which means the noise that you are seeing is that much smaller. And depending on your output size, you may not even see it. On a 24 megapixel camera, you have to enlarge it more to the same size if your output being the same. So that combined with, I think, the simpler interface, with the better electronic viewfinder experience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I think the M11 is going to be a more flexible option for you. I would say the only drawback of having the M11 is, I like shooting in black and white, but if I go out with the M11, I almost never convert to black and white because the color is so stunning out of the M11 that I don't want to convert the files to black and white. What having a monochrome camera gives you is it forces you to see the world in black and white, to go out and shoot for black and white only, and not have that option of, well, maybe I'll just shoot this in color, I'll
Right,
leave it in
right,
color.
right.
You know, so I do know a lot of people that have a color and a monochrome camera, whether that's, you know, let's say a Q2 or a Q3 color camera and a Q2 monochrome, or an M11 and an M10 or M11 monochrome, or in your case, a 246. That's not uncommon. A lot of people have a color and a black and white camera so that it forces them to do that. And as Josh pointed out, the black and white camera also gives you the opportunity to use color filters to alter the image in camera to actually compose and capture something different than just converting it later in Lightroom.
Very cool. Next.
One more, was the silver M11 discontinued?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yes. So you can ask me why. I don't know. Maybe they're just focusing on the M11P.
But good news,
yes.
you can get a silver M11B eventually.
Yeah, well, one of these days. We have time for more questions, Jose. I saw some more in the chat.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking if we can ship the thermals.
Yeah,
bottles
anywhere
out-
in the world. I mean, it
outside
won't
the
be
US.
cheap to ship it outside the U.S., but if you want one, you can't get it anywhere else because it's a Leica Store Miami exclusive. So
Yeah.
just get a few, make it worthwhile.
Firmware developments, we're going to touch
We're
on
gonna
that.
get
We're gonna get
Yeah.
there. Yep.
Yep. Why did the M11 monochrome or P not get the faster Wi-Fi connection like on the Q3?
Well, I think that's a fundamental hardware change. It's easy to do that. It's easy to make those big changes when you go to the next generation. It's very hard to do that when you're making those small improvements. So I would assume the next generation of M would have that, you know, just like they do on everything else, where they sort of stagger the new features.
Right. So it's not surprising that the M11P and the M11 Monochrome feature the same underlying chipset, both in terms of processing and Wi-Fi compatibility, because that's on a board as the M11. And the Q3 is a completely different development. So yes, that's why.
And just to answer the super quick question, does the MatchTech brass hot shoe cover work on the M11? Yes, it does. Yeah, I use one all the time. It's nice. It's probably one of the most like under the radar but cool products, because the M bodies only came with brass hot shoe covers on the M10P, and then we never saw them again. Even the newer ones that came out with the Q system are aluminum. But Match Technical, who makes the thumbs up, makes a black paint and a silver chrome hot shoe cover, which are really, really nice matches for the M body. So if you're into hot shoe covers, and everyone knows that I'm into all that stuff, then they're very handy to have. Sorry, I got distracted.
Okay.
Any other questions, or should we get to the next
I
section?
think we can move on.
So,
Talk about some firmware.
oh boy. So I've lectured everybody on this for years,
Wait,
literally.
it's
at
not
this
going to
point.
stop you this time.
No.
Yeah.
When you buy a Leica camera,
I'm just here for this. Just,
when you buy a Leica camera, what you are doing is not just paying for the thing that is in the box, the digital camera. What you are paying for is the thing in the box plus a bunch of software engineers sitting somewhere in an office in Wetzlar who are consistently, for the entire life cycle of that camera, making it faster, more reliable, and have new features.
and often after the life cycle of that camera.
Fair, but mostly during it.
Mostly during, but sometimes after.
Leica doesn't just put out a camera and say, here you go, and never see, that's it. They put out a camera and they continuously improve the camera with firmware.
Let's see how many.
Now, of course, if there's bugs or stability problems, you're going to get firmware. But it's not just to fix problems. Firmware is actually introducing major new features. So throughout the current life, the 2 years, almost 2 years we've seen the M11, we've had a significant number of firmware updates that have added major new features. So if you have an M11, M11P, M11 Monochrome, and you're working on older firmware, not now, but as soon as this video is done, go online and update your firmware so you can take advantage of all these features. Because if you don't, you're just literally throwing money away, because you're paying the salaries of these engineers and you're not getting anything for it. So let's start. First thing, what did we see first, David?
So first of all, just to clarify, there has been, just in the last 2 years,
Yes.
there has been 8 firmware updates.
That many? That's awesome. Okay.
One of these
count?
for the M10?
No, that's all.
These are all
M11.
M11.
Yeah.
Okay, 8 firmware updates, starting with 121, and now we are at 202. Crazy. Now, like Josh said, some of them, like the initial one, actually I think it was on launch day or day after launch, just a bug fix for a function button. Okay, fine. But soon after that, not 2 months later, we got like a perspective control added, which was already on the M10 generation, and I think they were perfecting it for the M11. One of my favorites, and I think is a must-have feature for every camera, which is highlight weighted metering, which was made possible because of the shift away from the traditional metering that we saw in all previous M cameras, and now to off-the-sensor live view metering. So no matter what mode you're shooting in, even if you're not using live view on an M11, if you're just using the rangefinder, the shutter is still open, and the images are still being captured in live view of sorts to be metered and evaluated, both for white balance as well as for exposure metering, which is fantastic because now when it sees the whole image instead of just a little spot of it, it's able to protect those highlights, which are so valuable and near and dear to my heart, as everybody knows.
Yes.
There was also some other storage options, being able to do DNGs on an SD and JPEG on his internal storage, and just general fixes. So that was just 2 months after the camera was introduced, some kind of major things in terms of metering and functionality. And then as we go on, not even, another month later, 2 months later, we get even more features added. So you can, they cleaned up the playback and doing multi-image selection and deletion, improved the highlight weighted metering even further because they just know how important it is to me. Less shutter delay. So you had performance improvements in terms of actually optimizing performance of photographic functions and making the camera quicker, which even from my initial testing of the M11, it wasn't slow, but I'm not going to complain if you make it faster, right? And more bug fixes.
Yeah.
So this is kind of the thing that we see is they'll roll out some more features and then fix a few things under the hood.
Yeah, because the reality is a brand new camera is going to have bugs. It's going to have bugs, especially a Leica camera. There's a small company.
For sure.
But again, there's a bug. Leica will hopefully, generally, in my experience, fix it. It may take a few updates because remember, every single update have to go through every single combination of every single settings in every single scenario to make sure that it's perfectly stable.
You're right.
And it just takes time. If you look at where the M10 started in 2017 to where it finished with the M10R.
Oh, yeah.
The stability differences between the very first launch day M10 and the very last day of the M10R were huge. It just takes time. That's all. So hang in there, people. Anyway, my turn. What? 121 was a classic. It was the first update for the M11.
Right. But don't make it too classic that you leave it on your camera.
Right, please don't.
If you look at your camera right now and go to camera information,
121.
and it says 121.
Oh, boy. Please don't.
Just update right now.
I just want to do a few questions. So somebody had said,
when you buy a new Leica,
when you buy a new Leica, don't assume the brand new camera comes with new firmware because it doesn't really matter when the camera was put in the box. It matters when the board was assembled and installed with the software. So first thing I do when I get a new Leica or working with a customer doing that is we check the firmware. Before we do any settings, anything, we make sure the firmware is up to date. So definitely if you're buying a new Leica, not just an M, any Leica, even a used Leica, any Leica you buy, the first thing you should check
the firmware.
Unless you buy it from Leica Store Miami, because I update the firmware on every single used camera all the time. So Then somebody said, M11 frame line is turning red. That was a fun feature from the 240 generation, which we never saw again. And I kind of miss it, but that's a hardware thing. I don't think we're going to see that.
I mean, that was introduced on the M9 Titan.
Yes, correct. Somebody's asking about the leather pouches, and I laugh because I can now, after 14 years, I can look at a Leica pouch and tell you exactly what lens it goes to. But it just takes lots of experience doing that because they don't label them, right? I'll tell you a secret, though. If you have any M lens, maybe not a few of the really, really new ones, but any M lens and you have the instruction manual, all the instruction manuals, again, up to about 2021, if you kind of flip through to the back of the English section, there is a list of the parts, whether that's caps, hoods, whatever, and the case will be in there with the Leica part number. So if you want to know, you'll see you have the lens, but you're missing the case, or you want to try to find a replacement, if you look in the instruction manual, under the parts list, which is like the last part, it'll tell you the part number of the case.
Do we also list it in our lens listings?
No, we don't know. We don't do that. Well, because some cases are available, some cases are not. Some cases take literally years to get. It's kind of random, which I know is annoying, but it's Leica's doing their best.
Have you heard of the options from Oberwerth and the
That's true.
Denau
There
lens
are some
pouch?
other options. That's true, but it's
And
nice
all
to have.
Artisan and Artist make some nice lens wraps.
That's true. Yeah, the ACAM 414 is nice, but it's nice to have the original case. I get it. And then I saw a question about why are some M lenses so hard to find? It's kind of the Leica way. If everything was readily available, nobody would want it.
That's a good question.
So,
This last one's a good question.
what's the other thing? Will there be a point or potential coming of an M11R? I have no idea. Why would we? We don't know. We don't know that.
We don't know that, but I agree. 60 megapixels is,
I'm pretty sure we once said 24 was enough. So
yeah, but I mean, yeah, we said that. And well, I don't want to get into it, but yes, there are still advantages for 24 megapixel. And one of the nice things about the M11 generation is the variable sensor technology, variable resolution sensor technology. So you can shoot it at 36 megapixel and possibly stop down past f8.
good question. Do you have to update the firmware progressively if you have an older version? No. The newest firmware always incorporates all the older versions inside of it. So if you have 4 generations old, you can go right to the newest one, no problem.
Yep.
That's not an issue. I've literally gone
Oh my
from
gosh.
1.0 to 6 generations newer on some
If
cameras.
that wasn't the case, that would be
Yeah.
the most onerous process ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you'd have to keep taking the battery out to fully charge it before you could do the next update.
Why does no one talk about the 35 Summicron? We've talked about it tons of times. We have a whole episode on 35 millimeter lenses. I think just that, Leica as an aspirational brand, people aspire for the Summilux. And also the Summilux is what we've seen updated more recently, which is why we're biasing that. But I could see an episode on 35 Summicrons. I would have no problem with that.
Talk
We have
about
other
one
focal
today.
lengths. What?
Crunch?
We talked about one today.
That's true.
8mm.
Yeah, we talked about the V8M one today. So, yeah, I think that it's just a matter of the Summilux has a certain appeal from an emotional standpoint, even though the Summicrons are fantastic.
They are.
And if you want to know about 35 Summicrons, again, we have a 35 millimeter M lens episode where we
do.
covered the
We do.
entire range from start to finish.
And obviously, I mean, one of the finest lenses in the M lineup is the 35 Apo Summicron.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we
That
didn't talk
is
about
also
it then,
a
'cause I think
35 Summicron.
That wasn't out at the time, so.
Right. But that is also a 35 Summicron.
And I guess the question is, whether we talk about it or not, doesn't make it any better or worse. Right? That means, obviously every lens has its own merit, has its own performance, its own experience. So
Right.
some people are going to find a Summicron is right for them, whether it's right for their budget or for the size or the look or whatever. It's a great lens. You take the hood off the modern Summicron and use the ring, and it's extremely small. It's a fun lens that I enjoy. So, firmware. Right. Sorry.
We got
So
distracted
we
by
had
many
4 updates that gave us a lot of bug fixes, which is normal.
Yep.
And then perspective control, highlight weighted metering, etc. Then we saw a major update in December of 2022, so almost a year after the camera was launched.
Almost.
1.6.0.0. In that firmware, we got new options for the Photos Wi-Fi connection to save battery or have maximum performance. We got geotagging, so you can use the Photos app. and the
You should quantify that a little more. You kind of glossed over that.
Yes.
In other words, when Josh says they optimized it for performance optimizing for performance or for battery, it's not like both things happened at once. It became a user selectable choice
Right.
to see what's important to you. If you wanted to have a low power connection to preserve battery life for, let's say, geotagging versus higher performance mode for transferring photos. But you could select that and switch it back and forth. I think I just want to make it clear they didn't optimize both because not all things are possible at once.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. Go
That's
on.
good. No, it's a good
Carry on.
clarification. So we got geotagging through the Photos app to tag your images with GPS coordinates. They also improved the Photos Bluetooth connection to the camera. They gave you 2 options for standby to go 30 minutes or 60 minutes before the camera powers off. They gave you a really nice feature that I use frequently, which is when you reset the camera, it prompts you if you want to export your user profile. So if you reset the camera and you forgot to do that, it now prompts you. We got another big one for professionals, which is ProPhoto Flash triggering capability. So with the ProPhoto transceiver, you can now trigger ProPhoto flashes. They moved storage option settings to the storage management menu, small thing, and then some bug fixes. Then we got 1.6.1, which was more bug fixes. I guess sometimes the really, really big updates
Cause more bugs.
you'll cause more bugs.
Yeah.
And then they fix it
that
again.
just happened with 201 and 202.
Yeah, which we'll get there. Yeah, I'll get there. Yeah, so after 161, which was a bug fix for the bug fix, we took about 8 months
Yep.
to get the next update. So that was March 2023, we got 161. And then just last month in October, we got 2.0.1. So that gave us,
And that's a major firmware version.
yes,
Yeah.
we got the extended dynamic range feature for JPEG files, which is cool. This is my favorite. You can now edit the first 3 characters of the file name instead of just the first letter. Game changer, as far as I'm concerned.
You can put all 3 of your initials now.
Yes.
It's like the old pinball,
Yes.
games. Yeah.
Awesome.
High score.
They finally fixed a thing that drove some people crazy, which was when you would use live view and you would bring the camera to your face and your nose would touch the screen before it turns off and move the crosshair for magnification.
Right into the corner. Always
You
into
can
the
now
corner.
disable the touch screen, which is really nice
In live view.
in live view.
Yeah.
They took self-timer out of drive mode and put it in the menu by itself, so you can have self-timer with exposure bracketing.
Biggest thing ever.
Yes.
Amazing.
Another big one, tethered shooting. M11, of course, incorporated a USB-C port, and you can now shoot tethered into Capture One Pro and Adobe Lightroom.
Right here.
Showing here. Oh,
I'm just showing the connection right here.
No, you're not.
I'm trying to. I'm thinking about it.
There it is. Okay.
Right, so there's a USB-C connector, which can be used to either power the camera, charge the battery, and now tether. I do recommend, just as a safety, not safety, but just usability tip, not all USB-C cables are the same. A lot of USB-C cables, especially, let's say, ones that you might have handy for your phone or your iPad, are just for charging. You need a heavier duty one like this, but longer. I'll show this here. This one. There you go, Jose.
All right. Exciting.
Yeah, this is very exciting because it's a cable with no markings on it whatsoever, but it's a lot more rigid than what you can see. There's a lot of shielding on this, and it's a lot more rigid. That's typically the giveaway that this is a high-speed data cable, which I'm using for my, gigabit per second SSD. But this is the same kind of cable that you're going to want to use for tethering. You want to make sure that you have a 20 gigabit per second cable and make sure that it's a certified USB-C cable, because the power delivery ones are actually run at USB 2.0 speeds, which is like 30 megabytes per second, not gigabits. So you want to make sure that you've got the higher speed cable for tethering, and then you can carry the smaller, lighter cables for charging. I got to put that out there because there's a lot of confusion over the USB-C standard, because it really isn't standard. So just saying that. Also, if you use a lightning cable, that would also be USB-C connector, but it would be rated for data speeds. So your choice. Sorry.
Yes,
back
okay.
to you
No,
guys.
a couple new features for 2.01, which is they previously, because the M11 is always the shutter is always exposed because it meters from the sensor is always exposed because it meters from the sensor. Previously, if you remove the lens, the sensor would be exposed and it could get dusty very easily.
Oh,
So a feature that they added or they changed is now when you remove the lens, the shutter closes automatically like that.
it just did.
Yeah, so now you protect the sensor from dust. So here, show them like kind of
Yep. So the sensor should be...
the camera's off.
Camera's on.
You can hear it. So you
Sensor,
probably can't hear that, but
yeah, the sensor is open, and when I take the lens off,
we broke it.
I did. It stays open because probably our selection. But that was
Oh, you haven't turned it.
What's that?
Did you actually turn it off? Hold on. Let's see.
No.
Well, that was the added.
no,
You're
it's on.
getting ahead of me here.
I am, but I just want to show that was the behavior previously. You take the lens off.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Right, so that was behavior previously. Thank you for that. Took the lens off, sensor was exposed.
Like
now,
that. Yep.
starting in 201, take the lens off, the sensor, the shutter closes to protect the sensor. And then we also got faster connection to photos and
Here.
better.
And now I'll show the menu option.
Okay.
Before
Turn it on?
Yeah.
Oh, it's off.
It's off. It's off. That's what I wanted to show you.
Okay.
Okay.
This is they added this in 2.02.
Right. So you see here.
So before you say that, we had 2.01.
Yes.
Had a couple little bugs. Big update. About a month later, 2.02 came out, which fixed bugs, but then added one change, which is what David's going to show you.
Which is right here.
Well, how did you get to that, David?
Sorry. Under the main menu, at page 4, under camera settings, you can go here, scroll down, and you're going to see dust protection. It's a little confusing. I guess everyone wants to protect against dust, but if I turn this on, you didn't hear it, but I did. Now, the sensor is closed. So if I put the lens back on, okay, right? And you can see that the sensor's open because we're in live view. And I take the sensor off, or the lens off, you'll notice the shutter closed. That's the dust protection on feature. And again, I'm going to go back here. And if I turn it off, you'll notice that the sensor is now exposed because the shutter's open. So you can choose the behavior.
When would you want the sensor to be exposed?
That's
I'm
a
so
great
glad you
question.
asked that question. So, at first glance, you may be, why would Leica give you the ability to control that? Well, there are certain adapters, especially thread mount adapters, that don't fully cover the 6-bit coding sensor on the camera body, which I will show you. If you look here, this optical sensor here, if that's not fully covered by normally a lens, the camera will think that no lens is attached. So if you're using one of those adapters or something funky, and if the camera doesn't think there's a lens attached, if they didn't allow you to disable this dust protection feature, you would never be able to take a picture because the camera would always think there was no lens attached. So that's why they added that in 2.0.2, is because for some small subset of customers, they were having issues with the camera not working for them because of the adapter they were using. That is why. Or you just want to live life on the edge and always have your sensor exposed. I don't know.
I like to live life on the
I know
edge.
you do. As the man who doesn't use lens caps, that is you're living your life on the edge.
I don't use lens caps, and I don't keep my sensor covered.
Nope. You literally just expose the sensor, you just throw it in the bag.
That's it.
Totally fine. We put some rocks in there, you know.
I mean, in fairness, the SL2 leaves the sensor exposed when you change lenses.
Yeah, which is annoying. It drives me crazy. I'd love to see something similar, but you know, maybe.
As would I.
Maybe we'll see a new SL2 firmware. I don't actually know. Anyway, questions, Jose.
Yeah, we got a bunch.
All right.
in the
Did you
recent-
cover all the...
We did. We're done with firmware.
Okay, cool.
Now we're going to take questions for the next 20 minutes and then go to bed. Go.
Okay, let's see. What is the ideal humidity percentage at which Leica lenses and cameras should be stored in a dry box?
28.7. I don't know.
You said that with so much commitment, though.
Honestly,
Just not...
it's more likely to damage the box than it is to damage the camera in terms of humidity. I think if it's indoors in a climate controlled environment, you're fine. Yeah. I've had cameras and lenses sitting around on my desk for years in my office, and I just pick them up and they work.
Apparently, according to my thermostat at home, I think my house is like 50 to 55% humidity or something.
Oh, there you go.
I've never had a lens rot.
Yeah.
If you're hot, the lens is hot, so
There you go.
put the AC down.
Look, don't leave it in a dank basement, and don't leave it in a dusty hot attic.
Common sense approach, but a regular climate control.
Don't leave it in your
is fine.
garage. Don't leave it in a shed out back.
Car.
Like, don't put it in the...
What I will tell you,
You know.
I'm going to give a collecting tip here.
Yes.
Okay.
Ooh.
Everybody, including myself, loves the push-on metal lens caps for the M lenses.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
They
yeah.
come with the special editions, and a few new lenses come with them.
Yeah.
However, the biggest problem is that with these silver chrome lenses or the brass barrel lenses, if you leave the push-on cap for a really long time, like for months or longer, like a collectible, what you risk happening is actually a ring around the lens barrel where the cap is contacting the lens, because it's not made to be on there continuously for years at a time. It's made only to be on there when you're not using it. So my advice to anyone who's holding on to any lenses that have a push-on cap that are in their collection, meaning they're not being regularly used, to take that push-on cap, put it away, and just put a standard plastic clip-on cap that just kind of clips in to protect the outer edge of the lens barrel from getting all marked up. So another storage tip for you. What are you laughing at over there?
Nothing, just some of the comments.
Oh, okay.
I knew it was going to happen.
Jose, fire away.
All right. Do you think older cameras, such as the M11 or SL2, receive software updates to add content credentials similar to what other manufacturers are reportedly doing?
I mean, as of now, the content functionality is hardware-based, but this technology is so new that we could see it. I don't know.
I mean, thankfully,
I don't know.
The Maestro processors inside the Leica cameras are pretty powerful. But if that was the case, and as Josh said, when he got his tour in Germany, these are being authenticated, like the chips are actually being authenticated to go in for content authentication. we have to see how this all shakes out, if there's a way to do it purely through software, or if it would slow the camera performance down in any way. I can't imagine that Leica invested the resources and the money to put hardware encryption chip inside the camera if there wasn't a reason behind that. Whether or not they roll it out to other cameras as an option remains to be seen.
Keep going, Jose.
Okay.
What do we got?
Is there a way to leave photos GPS on and keep it connected to the M11? I want to keep all the locations stored automatically without having to control the camera with the app.
Yeah,
Yes.
as long as the app is open and you have geotagging turned on, it's a low energy Bluetooth connection that's constantly going. As you have to have a signal, obviously, a GPS signal, but yeah, that works.
And location service is turned on for Leica photos.
Yes.
It's important.
Yes.
Because if you don't have that activated, it won't transmit any GPS data.
Correct.
What write speed for SD cards is the most ideal for the M11?
It's UHS
Fastest,
2,
yeah.
like, I don't know, 250 megabytes per second.
I mean, the camera's probably slower than that internally. I don't actually know the right speed.
it's pretty fast.
But it's never like you're buying the best camera, you buy the best memory card.
To a point.
Yeah.
You don't need 8K,
I need that. I don't need
You
that.
do?
Oh yeah, for reasons.
You don't need media verified for 8K recording, for instance. You're not shooting video. I think most M shooters are also not shooting just continuous bursts forever. Most people, I'd say, are shooting single shot or quick bursts. You don't need a super, super fast card for recording. What I find to be beneficial of having a fast card, let's say in the 300 megabyte per second range, which is an average UHS 2 card, is for downloading your images to your computer, because you don't want a slow card to download into your computer because it's going to take twice as long.
Yeah, fair point. Cool. Next.
Just don't use the Sony Tough cards. They
Yeah,
usually give
there's been some, I used to recommend them, but there's been some feedback that people have had some issues with the Sony Tough cards.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they're the most expensive and best cards,
There you go.
not for Leica.
What else we got?
All right. Do all the newer 35 millimeter steel rim reissues come with the updated hood?
That I don't know. That's a question that I brought up to Leica when I was in Germany, and I didn't really get a clear answer. So the thing is, we've seen so few of them that I haven't been able to actually check because I don't open them when they come in. But I will be endeavoring to get a better answer on this from Leica in the next few weeks. Just a lot of people are on holiday right now. Because
December,
basically,
Germany.
to give the background to that, the steel rim, as I mentioned earlier, comes with two lens hoods, one of which screws on. And the issue was, if you screwed on that lens hood on top of a filter, meaning you had the lens with a filter on it, and then you screwed the hood into the filter's external threads, you could get vignetting because the hood was being pushed out. Leica addressed or recognized this and stated they were going to make a modified version of that hood that was, I guess, wider, that wouldn't have the issue. But I don't know if the new ones are coming with it because we've seen so few, and I don't know if and when they may offer replacements to people experiencing that. It's an open question right now that I don't have the answer to, but one that I'm keenly aware of and will be eventually resolving.
Because as everybody knows, Josh is obsessed with lens shades and hoods.
Yes, I am. So
This is near and dear to his. As much as I want highlight weighted metering for everything and all the things, Josh wants lens shades
for sure.
for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, if you bought a steel rim from me, for like so Miami, I mean, and I get news on this, you'll hear from me, and then I'll talk about it on the show when I get something definitive. But as of now,
No doubt.
still an open question.
Yep.
What's next?
All right. Does the Apple 35 millimeter not focus on a film MP? Every other lens seems to work other than the Apple 35.
It should work, but not in the close focus range.
Yeah, you got to make sure you're not in the close focus range because nothing will happen. I mean, the lens will focus, but you can't actually see
it's
it.
decoupled from your rangefinder.
I mean, I have an M6 right here. I have a 35 Apo. Which is basically the same as an MP. Let's give it a shot. Here we go. Put it on. Okay, so now, yeah, it works fine. But as soon as I go into the close focus, it stops moving the rangefinder patch because, of course, it's not rangefinder calibrated to do that.
It decouples, and there's a detent on the lens, and that gray area indicates you shouldn't be going there if you have a film camera.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting, and we were just having this conversation yesterday. We had an event, we had a gallery opening at the store last night, and someone has a film camera and is using the new 35 FLE version 2, and made a comment that he's like, well, because I shoot so much with my film camera, I was kind of thinking about getting the version 1 because then I don't have to worry about the decoupling issue. It's like, okay, well,
There you go.
there's a fair point.
Yeah, absolutely. Next questions.
Let's see. What are examples of lenses with character in the 35 and 50 focal lengths? Not looking for the sharpest or most advanced.
I mean,
Okay, I can answer that one.
I happen to think that the 35 Summilux FLE has a lot of
I mean,
character.
It depends on your definition of character.
Right.
I traditionally associate character with flaws in the sense of lens rendering, meaning it's got vignetting and swirly bokeh and everything like that.
Watch our bokeh episode.
We have a whole, we do have a bokeh episode which we cover this a lot, but the short version would be
What do you recommend?
8-element Summicron, prehistoric 35 Summilux, any of those versions for 35s. For 50s, 50 Lux prehistoric version 2, F1 Noctilux are wild. I know those are all over the place, but those are some examples.
In the 35 and 50 range.
Yeah, in the 35 50 range. Yeah. And we have a Noctilux episode and we have a bokeh episode. So you can watch both of those to get as much character as you could ever want and then some.
And you covered also the early prehistoric versions of the 35 Summilux also on the show.
We've covered a lot of this, yeah.
The 35 steel rim would be a lens
Correct.
with character.
Yeah, that's true. But I like to go vintage quite often. I mean, I shoot with the steel rim and I shoot with the classic series lenses a lot, but yeah, that's...
I would still argue in the modern vintage that the 35 Lux and the 50 Lux, I think, have some of the nicest character of the modern lenses. You know, if you look at a 35 Apo and a 50 Apo, they're pretty perfect in every measure. And I would say objectively, I mean, I like that. I like that perfection and that cleanness, and it doesn't add or subtract from the image. I find that I also like the 35 Summilux and the 50 Summilux when I want more character and just a little more, I would say, classic Leica look.
Yeah.
Without going vintage.
Cool.
Yeah.
Next.
All right. Does Leica still make any silver brass lenses?
They make one, 28 Summicron, silver chrome. Everything else, current production, is silver anodized, which is an aluminum barrel. They just discontinued some brass ones, 50 Summilux black chrome and silver chrome. But no.
This is heavy.
Yeah, brass barrel lenses are most, I don't know this for sure, but I would suspect that brass barrel lenses for the future will be reserved for special editions.
Yes.
I'm assuming so. I could be wrong, and I've been wrong many times, but that's my speculation for now.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that's it for now. Yeah.
That's it for now.
Bag and accessory show. We've done,
Didn't we?
we've done a bag episode.
We did it. It's in the bag. It's in the bag.
That's hard to do because of how much
They're so big.
space the bags take up and
Behind
how
us,
tiny
there was like a stack of bags up here.
So we've
and then
done some
bags.
bag episodes, but we don't carry Ona anymore. So we carry Operworth, Artisan and Artist, Billingham, a few bags by Artist Mono, Think Tank,
Peak Design.
Peak Design. But that's just very logistically difficult for us to do because of like to have
Space.
even to have 10 camera bags in the studio, we would be literally have to sit on them like as like a chair out of them, like a bean bag
There were
chair.
backpacks on the floor too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite a mess. Okay.
I see some other stuff here.
You can ask me if you see something or vice versa.
Yeah, somebody asked about
go.
if you could choose one lens and you had an M10. Which one
35
would it be?
Apo. Because the thing is, if I have to pick one lens, it needs to be versatile enough, but also sharp enough that I can crop a lot if I
mean,
have to. So
I could make an argument for the 35 Lux FLE as well, version 2, because it's now a stop faster than the Summicron, and it has that look when wide open, stop it down. It's going to perform not quite Apo Summicron levels, but not too far off, and it's got the close focus ability.
yeah, I want to mention something else, David. If you could pull up our website, Leica Miami. Because someone's asking about the new 28 Summicron. What I've been doing, anytime a new Leica product comes out that's a revised or replaced version of the previous one, what I've been doing is something that I have found useful even for myself is actually in our product listings on leicastormiami.com, I will create a table that compares the key features that have changed. So, no, 28 Summicron.
Oh, I thought you were looking at 35.
Someone's asking about the 28.
Oh.
It's up there. Nope, wait, you passed it. Down left. Left, right.
What?
28 Summicron, version 3.
Oh,
Right
there it
there.
is.
There you
Yep,
go.
Okay. Perfect.
So if you switch to the computer screen, Jose, so this is the new 28 Summicron on our website. And if you see, there's 4 little tabs. You could zoom in on those, David, maybe. They're bigger.
Magnify and enhance.
There we go. So the compared to V2 tab is the one you want to see, because if you click on that, it's going to give you a snapshot of the key things that have changed and a few key things, or at least one or two, that have stayed the same. So here in this case, between the 3 and the 2, you can see the biggest change was the fact that it has the close focus capability, it weighs a little bit less, and it has the swivel out integrated lens shade versus the screw on removable lens shade. Those are the big differences. So anytime you're curious about what are the big key changes when a new product comes out, camera or lens from Leica, go to Leica Store Miami's listing for it, and you'll see I'll have made, and I make these from scratch. It's not something that Leica makes.
Well, we also do it here too.
And yeah, we do it on Red Dot Forum as well.
Here, right there.
There
Yep.
as well. So we always,
Which is the same table.
David and I work on these together, so they're on both platforms. So if you look at those charts, those tables, you can actually see very quickly what the changes are.
Yes.
So anyway, good question. What else we got?
All right. In terms of image noise, will the M11 at 60 megapixels perform the same as the M10R at the same ISO? My M11P is noisier than my M10R. Is that expected?
Yes. Yes. I mean, exactly. So the M10R was impressive for a variety of reasons. It had a revised color filter array, much better performance in the reds, but also lower noise relative to the M10, M10P sensor. And that was kind of a feat because we went from 24 megapixels to 40, which was a pretty big jump, and saw a noticeable improvement in a small jump in performance in ISO. So for instance, where the M10, I think, kind of tops out for me around 10,000 ISO. The M10R can go up to more like 12,500-ish. So it's a little better. But again, because of the much higher megapixels, you don't have to enlarge as much, meaning the noise is smaller relative to your output size. And noise reduction is more effective as well because the pixels are smaller. We saw that extend to the M10 Monochrome, where we saw a performance up to 32,000 ISO, where the previous generation monochrome was, much, much lower than that. And I guess we're also seeing the same thing with the M11, where we jumped to 60 megapixels versus 40 megapixels in the M10R, and basically also notched up ever so slightly in terms of ISO performance. And the reason there is the M11 generation sensor is a BSI, or backside illuminated sensor, which has much larger photo sites relative to the surface area of the sensor. Means more light gathering, more dynamic range, less noise, all those things. So Leica has been kind of cranking out resolution upgrades along with ISO performance and dynamic range upgrades from the M10 to the M10R to the M11. We've seen consistent development there. I think the reason that Leica held off for so long and they stayed at 24 megapixels for as long as they did through multiple generations is because the technology wasn't there yet with higher resolution sensors, because there would be a sacrifice in terms of noise or dynamic range. So they waited until that technology was mature enough where they could make that jump both in resolution and also in low light performance. And again, like it bears out in results. So you can see it as a nice little linear ramp from the M10 all the way up through the M11.
There you go.
How's that?
Good answer.
Thanks.
All right. Next question, please.
All right. Where is it? Okay, with the proper USB-C 3.1 cable, can I transfer photos from the M11 to the iPhone 15 Pro? When I try, the Photos app still tries to connect over Wi-Fi.
Okay, so what I didn't mention in there is that you need to use, if you want to transfer to your iPhone or your iPad, you have to use an Apple certified, what is it, MiFi? What do they call it? I always forget.
I'm a PC guy. I don't know.
I actually have it in the M11 review. Hold on. It's
Search Apple.
I am. Apples to apples. There we go. So if you can click over here. So the M11 and the M11P and all that comes with an included Apple MFI certified USB-C to Lightning cable. Now that is slightly inconvenient considering that, now the iPhone 15 has USB-C, but for everything iPhone 14 Pro and earlier, you can use the included MFI cable. So now you're just going to have to go on Amazon or Apple's website and find an Apple MFI certified USB-C to USB-C cable. That will work with Apple devices. MFI may mean, it's kind of a silly acronym, but made for iOS.
Cute.
Cute.
I'm not cool enough to have an iPhone 15 yet, so I haven't tried this.
So you could use the
Next year,
Lightning cable.
That'll be my birthday present to myself.
I'm sorry to confuse things, but now you're going to need a cable for power delivery, a PD cable that's rated to 100 watts. I highly recommend Anchor ones that are braided because they're really nice. You're going to need a USB 3.1 or 3.2 cable that's 20 gigabits per second for data. And then you're going to need an Apple MFI USB-C to USB-C
This is crazy.
cable for hooking up.
Wasn't I
to
saying
your
like an
phone.
hour ago how simple everything was now for Leica? You're really undermining my point here, okay? Can we please go to the next question before we get into a cables episode?
We'll do a cable episode.
Ooh,
for
a
sure.
cable
No.
All right.
Next.
This is a Josh question for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Are limited editions encouraging more investing, collecting, and storing psych instead of buy to shoot and enjoy the experience?
No. I mean, first of all, Leica's been doing limited editions for 100 years. And this is not a new thing, right?
And if I could interject, those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Sure.
Like enjoying photography and enjoying collecting of Leica things you can do both of those things. A lot of people do those things at the exact same time by using their collectibles to go and shoot pictures.
Yeah.
Again, last night we saw a MP
Hammertone, yeah, in the wild, which was
in the
super
wild
cool, yeah.
being used.
Gorgeous. Yeah, so the reality is you can buy a special edition and you can collect it and sit on a shelf and appreciate it for its cosmetic beauty and the fact that it's like this little work of art. Or you can go out and shoot it, or you can do both. I mean, there's no wrong answer here because the whole point of everything is that it's supposed to be fun. Okay, we're not saving lives here, people, okay? We're just talking about cameras. So yeah, whatever your style is, if you like to collect, if you like to shoot, if you like to do both, it doesn't matter. You just
have a really nice collection and just get a black M11 to go shoot.
You just have to enjoy it.
Go enjoy it.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Next question.
I'm worried about sensor corrosion on my M8. Is there any remote chance Leica might reintroduce the M8 the way they did the M6?
The M8 CCD does not corrode.
Right. There's two reasons.
Totally different. Even though it's a CCD, totally different component. So
Not going to corrode.
M8's been out for years. We've never seen corrosion. It's not a thing. Would Leica reintroduce the M8? That would be the coolest thing ever. But
no.
Of course, I said that about the M. Well,
Never
that's
say
the digital
never,
camera,
but-
yeah.
I'm going to say no. They're not.
There really is no reason.
And there was once upon a time when the M9 was introduced, I proposed that Leica should make a new M camera, entry-level camera with an M8 sensor in it. And basically then in 2009, they were like, no.
Yeah, never. I don't think it's ever going to happen. Yeah. I mean, that'd be fun. But you just buy a freshly CLA'd M8, something like a black paint M8.2. They're so cool.
That's cool.
They're getting really hard to find, but yeah, I'm looking for one actually. So if you have a black paint M8.2 with a low shutter count,
What's the battery situation though on
you can buy new
M8s?
batteries for
Okay,
those.
perfect.
14464 is the product code. So yeah, that's not a problem.
Because you just want to make sure, probably if you find a used M8, you probably want to get new batteries.
Yes,
for it.
absolutely, yeah, because those batteries are 15 years old now.
They're not gonna
work. Yeah.
Oh, and they could also be dangerous.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah. All right. When considering a Noctilux 1.2 reissue, what other vintage lenses should be considered for comparable bokeh small size?
Well, nothing's going to look like the Noctilux 1.2, right? So to me, the whole point and fun of getting vintage lenses is that they look different. I don't want to get something that looks the same. So first you have to decide focal length, right? So if you say, I have a 51.2 reissue and I love what the 50 focal length does for me, go out and get a 51.4 preaspheric, maybe a 50 Summicron rigid from the 60s. That'd be a great 50 set. Or you may say, well, I love what the 51.2 is doing, but I want something longer. Go out and get a 75 Summilux or a 90 f2 preaspheric pre-apo. So you just have to kind of work backwards from your creative objectives and determine focal length and also budget and availability, because vintage lenses are getting really hard to find, especially really nice copies.
Yeah.
That would be
Well,
my
the steel rim, the new steel rim is
also hard to find.
right, but
Very, very different look than you're going to get with the 1.2
Totally
Noct
different,
Deluxe. Yeah.
which is good. I mean, I like the variety, but I think that
I liked your suggestions
Yeah.
of the, the preaspheric 50 Lux.
Yeah.
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 I think that would be
Super
the
cool.
closest, but it's not going to be close.
all right. I shoot on an M11 monochrome, and I'm looking for a low distortion 21mm lens. Which would you recommend?
Easy.
Yeah.
The 21 Super Elmar.
Yep.
21-3.4 aspheric. It's a banging lens. I mean, that lens is so good.
Yeah.
we have a wide angle M lens episode,
We do.
a couple years old now, but we covered it.
But the lens is awesome. I mean, it's so sharp. It's so easy to shoot hyperfocal on that. I think it's an awesome street photography lens. I don't know, a few weeks ago I was in Japan leading our workshop there, and actually a couple of the folks on the trip had the 21 Super Elmar. They had M11s, and we went into the market in Tokyo, the Tsujiki market. It's pretty tight quarters, and 21, just throw it on there, set it to like 1.2 meters at f8, auto ISO, and just shoot everything.
Yeah.
Everything's in focus. You can stick the camera wherever you want, and it's so much fun to use because it's so low distortion. It's so sharp into the corners. Great color and contrast.
And also a very
small.
a very easy lens to filter. 18 Super
46.
Elmar, 21 Summilux, wide angle Elmar. None of those lenses have traditional filter threads,
Yeah.
whereas the 21 Super Elmar has a standard E46 filter thread, which is
matches up
really
beautifully
convenient.
with a 35 and 50 Lux.
There you go.
You share the same filters.
There you go. Cool.
All right.
We got time for a few more questions, Jose.
Yeah,
What do you
we got a few. Will Capture One for iPhone and iPad tether with the M11?
I have no idea.
The M11 tethering right now is limited to Capture One Pro
Oh, there you
on a
go.
computer or Lightroom Classic.
I'm not a Capture One guy, so
And
I'm pleading ignorance.
there's plugins available on the Leica website
Okay.
to make that happen. So currently, no, there is no tethering planned for iOS devices, but anything is possible if you believe.
There you go. Cool.
All right.
And I think that would be more of a feature request to Phase
One.
One.
Well, they're separate companies now.
Whatever. To Capture One.
Yeah.
To say, hey, I'd love to have this, and then they can, through their channels with the engineers, can talk to engineers and see if that's possible.
Yeah. All right. What else we got?
Okay. I haven't tried it myself, but can we now power the M11 variants purely on USB-C wall power banks?
You need to have a battery in the camera. You can't just power it with no battery. It charges roughly 1% per minute. So if you want a 10% charging battery, it's 10 minutes. I do recommend higher capacity chargers if you can spare it, like 20 or 30 watts. But can you charge it? I mean,
you'll be stuck to a wall plug.
well, I think they were saying by a power bank, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wall/power bank.
So, yeah, if you have a power bank, I mean, theoretically, it should keep you charged. If you start with a full battery and you just shoot normally, you probably have infinite power, enough that it'll replace whatever is being lost. Probably. So if you're
it
looking,
depends on how you use the camera.
I mean, I'm thinking the use case for that isn't just walking around and having a cable, hanging
Right.
from the camera going to your camera bag.
right.
I think about that more for if you're shooting a long intervalometer. Say, for instance, you're doing an 8 or 10 hour intervalometer overnight in a cold climate in the desert. Yes, you absolutely should be running it off a power bank because it will keep the camera alive that whole time.
Yeah.
So
There you
for
go.
me, that's the use case, not walking around with a power bank sticking on the bottom of the camera.
All right. I have both a 50mm Elmar and 90mm Elmerit, both of which are my forever lenses. Do you recommend getting them 6-bit coded?
I mean, there's no downside to getting them 6-bit coded just because it doesn't do
Why not?
anything bad. I mean, other than the cost and the time that it takes. And Leica will generally do a CLA service at the same time. So
worth
yeah, I would do that.
It's worth it.
Yeah. The only lenses that I won't 6-bit code are like super rare collectibles that I want to keep original. But a regular lens that can be 6-bit coded, in
Should
my
be.
mind, should be 6-bit coded.
Well, again, because that calibration, when they're replacing the rear flange, they recalibrate the lens for focus. So you're going to get it nice and dialed in.
It's going to be good. Yeah.
It'll be clean. It'll be nice and smooth. And it eliminates that possibility of not setting the correct profile when you switch lenses quickly, and then you end up with the wrong lens profile applied to the wrong pictures.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Maybe like 2 or 3 more questions. Call it a night.
Yeah. This regarding a question that we answered earlier, but just to clarify, David, he's asking, David, just so I understood your answer about image noise, the M11 at 60 megapixels will be noisier than the M10R at the same ISO, correct?
No, the other way around. The M11 outperforms the M10R at equivalent resolutions.
Right, because you
Same
can't
ISO.
compare 60 megs to 40 megs. What you would have to do is downsample the M11 file to 40, compare it against the M10R, and you'll see that it's better. I've done that, so I know.
It is better.
Yeah.
It's better, I mean, not a lot. I'd say the M11 versus the M10R, it's about a half stop better, give or take, in terms of equivalent ISO performance. And also, I should just point out, because I'm surprised the question didn't come up, we covered it in our M11 episode way back when, but but shooting at medium and low DNG settings, so 36 or 18 megapixels, does not yield a noise performance advantage versus just shooting at 60 and downsizing it later. And Josh has tested that as well.
Yeah.
So take that for what it is.
There you go.
All right.
That was a little bonus answer.
Like 2 more questions, because it's getting late. Okay.
The next one, it could be a really long answer, but...
Well, then
we
I
can-
should answer it.
So, Josh, take this one. If I have an M10R for battery and option compatibility, if I want to buy monochrome, is M10 the obvious choice? What will I miss for not picking the M11 monochrome?
Well, the M11 Monochrom is better in every way, and it's $9,000, and the batteries are $200. So if you're going to spend $9,000, spend the extra $200 and get a couple of extra batteries.
And the M11 batteries do last a lot longer.
Yeah, like I get, not everybody wants to spend the $9,000. I get that, but I'm saying if you're going to do it, if you're going to get an M11 Monochrom, because it is better in every way than an M10 Monochrom, objectively, subjectively maybe not, depending on what you like. But if you go to our website and look at the M11 Monochrom listing, I have another one of those handy charts that breaks it down, all the comparisons against the M10 Monochrom.
We did.
And how it's better. So I would do it. I mean, because again, a couple extra batteries is almost like a rounding error at that price. I hate to say that, but and they last a really, really long time, so you don't need as many.
Yeah, I'd say on the M10 generation, I would not leave the house with fewer than 3 batteries.
Yeah.
Preferably with 4.
Yeah.
On the M11, even in Japan, where I shot my face off, 2 batteries per day.
Yeah, exactly. So you save a little bit of money there as well. I know.
All
Crazy.
right, Josh. Why do you think there aren't quicker ways to calibrate and fix issues with the rangefinder alignment?
Well, I don't think it's a matter
like a DIY
It's just like you have to have the skill to do it. And
the equipment as well.
Yeah, and if you mess it up, good luck sending it to Leica saying, I broke it. They're going to say, that's too bad. So, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not a handy, if you know me, I'm not handy at all. I can't fix anything anywhere except for a drink. But I would say that if you're having issues with your calibration, send it to Leica, let the experts deal with it. The turnaround time in the US is a lot faster than it used to be for Leica customer care. I know people that have done it themselves, but that's scary.
Kind of guessing at that point. Leica has specialized equipment and jigs for that.
Yeah.
Like for focus calibration for these cameras specifically, with technicians who are trained on these cameras.
Now, David, do you think they keep their jigs in a dank basement? I'm just saying, if you're gonna have a jig, what's the best place for it? I'll just put it out there. Think I was gonna let you let that one go? I was just waiting. I was biding my time, waiting for it to get late enough that you would be delirious.
Oh, I'm so delirious.
All right, give me like 1 or 2 more.
I think I need some more iced tea.
Never
And
gonna
I
call.
asked for a dedicated review of the Leica 135mm Apple Telet. The longer M telephoto seems unloved.
I mean, it's definitely one of the least popular
had it in our
lenses.
telephoto
We
episode.
talked about it on the telephoto episode. I don't think we would do a dedicated review, but certainly I've shot with it. I'm happy to send you some of my pictures if you want to see them. But for anything longer than 90, I tend to then usually switch over to the SL system because the 90-280 is just so good, or the 100-400, that it's going to do better for me than the 135. Now, that being said, the 135 is an incredible performer.
It is.
And a lot smaller than an SL lens. So it does a good job, but I just don't know. We don't usually do episodes on standalone lenses unless it's like a brand new lens, like a 35 Apo, but that would be about it. All right.
May we have a special edition episode? I'd love to see what can be showcased.
Yeah, I've this has been
know
on my
you
list
thought
for a
about
while.
that.
The challenge with that is as you may know, when we do these episodes, we often will borrow certain items from collectors and friends and customers. And there's a lot that I'd have to get in here for that episode, and just the risk factor of like getting everything shipped is high.
I think the episode would have to be like underwritten by Lloyd's of London.
Yeah,
or
I
something.
think I have a few ideas for how to do that. So it's definitely on the prospective calendar for 2024. So stay tuned, because I want to do a collecting episode. I want to do a black paint episode. I want to do some other stuff. So stay tuned, because I know that it's a lot of fun to show those pieces, but some of these pieces are $50,000. It's like, I don't want to just have somebody ship me their original 1-2 Noctilux or whatever, for no reason. So stay tuned. Okay,
David,
one more question.
Japan photos. People are asking for Japan photos.
Okay, so here's what you do. Where do you keep your laptop? At home or at work? Is it at home? Oh, perfect. Text me, and I'll send you his address and his alarm code. You break into his house, and you steal his laptop, and then you'll get his Japan images. That's the only way it's ever going to happen.
I may or may not post them on Instagram. I'm just very bad with the Instagram-y things, so.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, there is pictures from Japan. Also, yeah, I'm not sure the best way to share those.
Look, just keep asking him. David at LeicaStoreMiami.com. That's his email address. That I'm happy to share. Send him an email if you want to see it. Like, spam this guy. Say, we want to see your Japan photos.
I promise you.
Be nice. Be nice.
Japan photos. There you go.
Yeah, that's great.
Now you've seen
them all. Wow.
Look at that.
Is just so rewarding. Wow.
There
That's
they are.
amazing.
Teasing them.
You're the worst. All right.
Well, just freeze it and zoom in really close.
Oh, my bad. All right. Let's sign us off, David. I think we've covered quite a lot.
Did we get everything, Jose?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, someone wants to see show your Leica kits again.
I know.
That was a lot of fun.
I know.
Okay. Hopefully we gave you some new info and insight into the Leica M system, in terms of, and maybe an appreciation for how busy Leica has been over the last 2 years since we checked in last. I mean, rolling out the 3 great M11 generation family cameras, updating 3 lenses, 4 lens, no, and also reintroducing a film classic as well as a lens classic, and 8 firmware updates. So they have been busy, and it's funny because everyone kind of gives Leica grief saying like, oh, they don't do anything or they haven't come out with anything. It's like they've come out with a lot.
Yeah, it's been a productive 2 years.
It's been very, very productive, and that's just on the M side, not all the other things that Leica's doing as well. So let's give them a little bit of credit there. They've done a great job and giving us features and cameras and lenses. And like Josh said, we're not saving lives. We're just having fun. So hopefully you guys got a little something out of this, learned something new, because we always like to provide some information. Be sure to check the video description for links to all of the things we talked about in this episode, every single introduction and all that. You can read all about the firmware changes by just looking at firmware on Red Dot Forum. Please, 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 for Josh's sanity, update your cameras to the latest 2.02 firmware, especially if you're, still rocking the classic 1.21. You definitely want to upgrade and take advantage of all those great features. We have, when's our next episode?
Probably next year. So this is it for the year for us.
This might, maybe we'll squeeze in another one. We'll see.
We will. Oh, okay.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm down. I got so much. I got so many lenses to show.
Lens hoods.
Rear lens caps.
Pouches.
We do a whole pouch episode.
It could be
2 hours of me showing pouches. I love
pouch
it.
crazy.
I love
But stay tuned. If you like this episode, you know what to do. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And make sure to click the notification bell so you know when we post new content, like maybe another episode before the end of the year. If not, we will see you after the new year with more exciting content. We have tons of stuff that we want to show you. And we just ran out of episodes with all the stuff that has come out.
So much.
So we have a lot to go over. Please join us. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it, or whenever you're watching this episode. If you want to see older episodes of Red Dot Forum Camera Talk, you can check out our playlist. We've got everything organized by system, and now 60...
Almost 70. We're getting there.
Almost 70 episodes. Yeah. Be sure to check out reddotforum.com, the website, not just the YouTube channel, for all the latest Leica news, firmware updates, technical articles, camera reviews, etc. And thanks for joining us.
Well, and the most important part, we're in the holiday season. If you like the channel, if you like the content we provide, Leica Store Miami, That's us. That's what keeps the show running. So I showed you some cool stuff today: bags, lenses, red wear swag. If you think any of that's cool, go to LeicaSurvey.com, put an order in. You know, if you want to say hi to us, put a note in the order, say, hey, saw it on the show. We love that.
You think these plaid shirts just by themselves?
No, I know, right? I need to buy more plaid shirts for next year. So please order some thermoses for that. And have a happy holiday season, everybody.
Yes, happy holidays. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. See you.